Hello and welcome back, friends. I haven't intended making more vids on this story, but here we are. Make yourself comfortable and enjoy the story. This is Necromancer of the Shadows, Chapter 401. Seeing the person who almost killed him wanted to run away using escape scroll, Evan can't help but curse under his breath. The barrier protecting the man was of S rank, and Evan was sure that before he go in using Shadow Walk, the man would definitely be able to activate the escape scroll and teleport away from here. If he wanted to stop him, he knew he had to do something that will stop the man from using the escape scroll. Seeing the man was about to activate the escape scroll, he used Growth Link skill's second effect, and took Aqua's new unique skill. Sea Dragon's ROAR unique skill, a formidable water element skill that summons the fury of a sea dragon's roar, unleashing a devastating combination of water and sound attack upon foes. Upon release, the roar takes the form of a colossal water dragon that rushes forward, sweeping away anything in its path. The roar itself is a combination of a deafening sonic assault and a deluge of water, causing disorientation, physical harm, and emotional distress to enemies. The power of the roar can be harnessed to target specific foes, or create widespread devastation across a large area. Shadow energy burst forth from his monarch core, and before the man could use the escape scroll, he activated Sea Dragon's roar using his shadow energy. Roar. Instantly, a terrifying dragon's roar resounded in tens of kilometers of area. The buildings in the area shook, and their glasses shattered. Because the roar was a partial sound-based attack, the man inside the barrier felt his mind buzzed, and he lost control over his body for a split second, dropping the escape scroll in the process. Normally it would have been impossible for the sound to affect the man like this, since he was an A-rank hunter, but because Evan used shadow energy to cast a skill, its power was on a completely different level. A terrifying pressure suddenly engulfed the large area of the city, and even though the man was inside the S-rank barrier, he felt his body stiffen because of the pressure. Because of the pressure, the man regained his senses and tried to catch the dropping scroll in mid-air, but it was already too late. While the man was trying to catch the dropping scroll, a 150 meters long eastern dragon appeared below Evan's feet. The dragon was looking like it was made of black water, and it was releasing a devastating aura. Evan was also surprised because the aura of the water dragon was far more powerful than he initially thought. The maw of the long black dragon was wide open, and was looking like a gate of abyss. Its large eyes were fixed on the barrier in front of it, and there was a dangerous look in them. Roar! Another deafening dragon roar echoed through the air, and the man's mind buzzed again. After materializing, the black water dragon immediately shot forward. The round S-rank barrier was caught in the maw of the dragon. The water pressure inside its mouth was countless times stronger than the pressure that the dragon was releasing outside. After being caught in the maw of the black water dragon, the barrier didn't even last for 1 second before it shattered like glass because of the terrifying water pressure inside its abyssal mouth. As the barrier shattered, the man found himself inside the abyssal mouth of the water dragon. No, even though the man was an A-rank hunter, he could not help but cry in despair as his skin and flesh were peeled off from his body when he came into contact with black water. I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. Evan was shocked as well when he saw the black water dragon going upward, heading straight towards the starry sky. Fuck, what kind of bullshit power is this? Evan can't help but curse, seeing how in just a few seconds, the flesh and skin of the man were peeled off, and he turned into a white skeleton, and even that skeleton turned into powder. A acute plus or minus D plus or minus S inverted question mark V mu LC inverted question mark M. He never thought that Sea Dragon's roar will be such a powerful skill. Even though I used shadow energy. This power is still too much, Evan muttered, feeling the power of skill is far greater than it should be. But suddenly he thought about something and finally realized why the power of the skill was so high. The power of my skills depends on my rank, and I completely forget that since I advanced to A rank, the power of the skills I will use will also increase, Evan muttered and scratched his head. It was the first time he used shadow energy after advancing to A rank, which is why he was shocked after seeing the power of the sea dragon's roar. The water dragon did not last long, and in a few seconds it disappeared. As the water dragon disappeared, Evan noticed a small object that was falling from the sky. He caught the small object and saw it was a storage ring. After catching the ring, he sighed because he did not expect the man to die so easily. That bastard was lucky that he died so easily. If I successfully caught him, I would have tortured him for a long time because of almost killing me, Evan muttered and put away the storage ring. He did not check it right away because he knew soon the hunters will come here. After all, the commotion that he caused was not small. Let's get out of here, Evan said, and looked in Eclipse's direction. Just as he was about to fly toward Eclipse, Evan felt some energy fluctuations. He looked in the direction of fluctuations and saw a few meters away from him the space was wrapping and twisting. He narrowed his eyes for a moment, thinking someone from the Dark Guild was trying to do something again. But he soon thought about something, and his expressions changed. Not good, Evan said in a hurried voice when he finally realized what was happening. Someone was coming there using a skill that was affecting space, and Evan can think of only one person who could affect space like that. The current president of the Hunter Association, Evan immediately said inside his mind when he remembered she could use space element. Chapter 402. Evan watched as the space some distance away from him wrapped and twisted. Without thinking anything, Evan looked in Eclipse's direction and used the steps of Voyager's skill again. Some space ripples came out of his boots, and he disappeared from the place he was hovering. Just as he disappeared, a woman in her mid-60s with a slightly wrinkled face appeared there out of nowhere. The woman had long white hair and deep red eyes. She was wearing a long white dress, and there was a cane in her hands. She looked at the place where Evan was a moment ago before looking in the direction of Eclipse, trying to run after using such powerful skills without the regard of public safety. Natasha, the president of the Hunter Association, said in a cold voice. She glanced at the broken glasses and the buildings which were filled with cracks, before taking a step towards the place where Eclipse was fighting. What the fuck was that? Paul, who saw Evan instantly recovering from a fatal injury, was still standing at the same place with his mouth wide open. Sarah was also looking at the holographic screen with a shocked look on her face. But both of them were even more shocked when Evan flew upward after recovering and suddenly disappeared from the sky. At the same time, an area of 300 meters turned completely black, and they were unable to see the 5 humanoid monsters. Paul, what is happening? Sarah asked when she saw darkness engulfing a large patch of the area and swallowing the humanoid monsters. If you are asking me, who do I ask? Paul said in a speechless voice because he was completely clueless about all the things that were happening. Damn, you are completely useless. I am coming right there, Sarah said in an irritated voice, and was about to end the call when, roar, a loud dragon's roar resounded from the other end of the communication crystal. Holy mother. The next second she once again heard Paul's shocked voice. Now what? Sarah literally flipped the table in front of her and asked in a dead voice. Paul didn't answer her, but the scene on the holographic screen in front of her started to change. Soon she saw a colossal black dragon that was moving towards the starry sky. Seeing the black dragon, Sarah's eyes trembled. That's the direction from where someone attacked Evan, Paul said after showing the water dragon to her. Sarah stared at the black water dragon until it disappeared. A moment later, a weary sigh escaped her mouth, and she sat down in her chair. Get out of there, Paul. That old witch will definitely come out after such a big commotion, she said, and continued to stare at the holographic screen, which was showing the night sky after the black water dragon disappeared. Paul, who was still looking in the direction of the water dragon, stiffened and immediately come back to his senses. After hearing her, I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus novel. C inverted question mark N. You don't want me to investigate what that darkness is, and what is happening there? Paul asked, looking at the darkness that was covering 300 meters of area. Because of Eclipse's skill. No need. You won't be able to escape if that old witch came there. Just leave from there, Sarah said, and ended the call. The holographic screen in front of her disappeared as well, and she leaned back in her chair, seemingly lost in thoughts. Paul looked at the darkness in front of him for a moment before he also disappeared from the place he was standing. After a few seconds he disappeared. Evan suddenly appeared above the dark area using the steps of Voyager. His expressions were serious because he could feel someone was coming towards his direction at rapid speed. Without hesitation, he dived into the darkness. He appeared beside Eclipse, who already killed 5 humanoid monsters. 3 of them were beheaded, and 2 had a large hole in their chests. Evan wasn't surprised when he saw the scene inside the darkness. He looked at 1-meter-tall Eclipse, who was still under the effect of Eclipsing Strike. In this state, its speed is even slightly above a newly advanced A+ rank hunter. He immediately summoned back Eclipse and put away the 2 bodies of the humanoid monsters, who had holes in their chest, into his shadow storage. Just as he put away the bodies, Evan once again felt some space ripples. He immediately concealed his aura using Shadow Shrouding Wings, and used Shadow Walk's invisibility effect. Evan immediately disappeared from the place he was standing, and Natasha appeared some distance away from him. Since Evan used shadow energy to cast Shadow Walk, Natasha was not able to locate him. Where did he go? Natasha muttered as soon as she appeared, with a confused look on her face. But her expression soon changed when she saw 3 beheaded humanoid monsters lying on the ground. Evan was slowly backing away from the place he was standing. Because of Shadow Shrouding Wings, the effect of Shadow Walk's invisibility increased even more because he could conceal his aura perfectly. As he was backing away, he was looking at the old woman, and after seeing her, only one thought came into his mind. Powerful. A acute plus or minus D plus or minus S inverted question mark V mu LC inverted question mark M. Even though current him can even fight against an S rank hunter to some extent, he still felt he won't be able to last even for 1 minute if he fought against her. So this she is the most powerful hunter, Evan thought after he was more than 100 meters away from her. He saw her examining the bodies of humanoid monsters and looking around searching for the culprit. He took a deep breath and turned around to leave. He did not use Shadow Wings or any other skills, because he knew there was a very high chance she will be able to sense him if he used any other skill. Soon he left that area without being caught by anyone. After making a distance of more than 10 kilometers away from the place where Natasha was, Evan finally stopped using his skill and rubbed his forehead, feeling slightly dizzy. Let's go back to the hotel for the time being to avoid all this mess, Evan thought to himself, and started walking towards the hotel. Chapter 403. While going back towards the hotel, Evan changed the shirt he was wearing. Although the death transfer skill healed his body, it could not heal the hole which appeared in his shirt when he was hit by the bullet. When he reached the hotel, he saw a bus coming which stopped outside the hotel. He looked at the small banner at the top of the bus and saw Black Raven Academy written on it. Black Raven Academy isn't it the academy located in Ravenhurst City? Evan thought as he went inside the hotel. He used the elevator and returned to his room. After seeing people from Ravenhurst City, he remembered Sarah. Looks like my guess was right. That bit*H Sarah is really planning to do something during the tournament. After seeing those humanoid monsters, Evan was sure that Dark Guild is planning to do something during the tournament. I think I become an eyesore in their eyes, which is why they decided to kill me this time, Evan muttered, walking towards the bathroom. He was thinking that the sniper who shot him earlier was sent by the Dark Guild. If he knew the person was not sent by Dark Guild, he would have definitely cursed himself for killing that person without getting any information from him. I hope I will get some information from the 2 people I brought with me. After taking a shower, Evan sat down on his bed. After sitting down, he summoned Snow and asked it to create a ice platform in the room. Snow easily created a small ice platform in the room that was about half the size of a king-size bed. Evan nodded his head in satisfaction after seeing the ice platform and took out the 2 bodies of the humanoid monsters from his shadow storage. He put the bodies on the ice platform so that the blood on them won't stain the floor of the room. After putting them on the ice platform, he created a wind barrier around the platform and used Shadow Resurrection skill. It was the first time he was using Shadow Resurrection on people who had somehow become monsters, so he wasn't sure if he would be successful. C inverted question mark M shadow energy seeped inside the bodies of 2 humanoid monsters, and Evan noticed the consumption of his shadow energy was 2 times higher than normal. He can't help but frown when he noticed the consumption of his shadow energy. The 2 bodies he brought with him were of B+ rank hunters who turned into ape-like monsters. The bodies were not damaged much as Eclipse killed them instantly by destroying their hearts. Both bodies were shaking violently after shadow energy seeped inside them. Bang! Suddenly, with a loud bang, one of the bodies exploded into a bloody mess. Evan's expression changed when he saw this because it was the first time a body exploded on his first try. Luckily, he created a wind barrier around the ice platform before using Shadow Resurrection that stopped all the bloody mess. After the body exploded, Evan looked at the second body and saw it was still shaking violently. But after a few seconds, the body stopped shaking, but the next thing that happened shocked Evan to his core. After the body stopped shaking, instead of 2 shadow undeads came out of the body of the ape-like humanoid monster. I think you should take a look at A acute +or-D +or-snovel.c inverted question mark M. One shadow undead was looking like a human, while the second one was that of an ape. The human was the B+ rank hunter who fought against him, meanwhile the ape was also a B+ rank monster. What the FU*K is going on here? Evan blurted out loud, looking at 2 shadow undeads. Is this a buy one get one free offer? As the 2 shadow undeads appeared in front of him, his growth link skill didn't activate, because those 2 were not his saved shadows. Evan took some deep breaths to calm down, after seeing 2 shadow undeads, and finally understood why the consumption of his shadow energy was 2 times higher than normal. Just what the hell those bastards are doing to turn humans into these kinds of monsters, Evan said while looking at the body of the humanoid monster. What was your name? Evan asked the shadow undead of B+ rank hunter. Although he asked the question, he was not sure if he will receive any answer, because he still remember how the hunters who fought against him were acting like puppets. Master, my name was Alden. Luckily his worries did not come true, and the shadow undead answered immediately. Evan heaved a sigh of relief and got straight to the main point. How did you become like this? He asked while pointing at the humanoid monster's body. Even though the face of the shadow undead was completely black, Evan noticed a look of confusion on his face after he saw his own body. For some reason, his heart sank when he saw this, and the next second the shadow undead shook his head. I don't know, how did I become like this? What do you mean? Evan asked, barely holding himself back to curse out loud. Soon the shadow undead of the man began to speak, and the more Evan listened, the uglier his expression became. So you went into the wilderness to hunt some monsters, but was kidnapped by someone, right? Evan said, and the shadow undead of the man nodded his head. According to the man, he was just a normal hunter and went to the wilderness to hunt some monsters. But while he was searching for monsters in the wilderness, he was kidnapped by someone. Even though he was a B+ rank hunter, he doesn't even know who kidnapped him, which indicates that the person who kidnapped him might be an A rank hunter. The man does not know what happened after he was kidnapped. When Evan asked if he remembered how he fought against him, the shadow undead of the man shook his head, saying he never fought against Evan. Why doesn't he have the memories of fighting against me? Evan thought because he fought against the hunter less than 1 hour ago. Is this related to his strange condition? Evan muttered, thinking about how the hunter was behaving like a puppet while fighting against him. He also tried to ask the shadow undead of the ape if it knew anything, but the result was futile. Were you abducted from the wilderness of the central city? Evan asked the shadow undead of the man, but to his surprise, the man shook his head. No, master, I was abducted from the wilderness of Ravenhurst City. Chapter 404. Ravenhurst City. Evan was surprised when he heard this. Many things appeared in his mind after hearing the name of the city. According to Sebastian, the Inferno dungeon is also located in the wilderness of Ravenhurst City, and the last thing this man remembers is that he was kidnapped from the wilderness of Ravenhurst City. Evan muttered, feeling that both things are connected somehow. Could it be that there is more to this Inferno dungeon than I initially thought? Evan frowned and fell into deep thought. But even after thinking about it for some time, he wasn't able to come to any conclusion. If only he had some memories after the kidnapping. Evan sighed inwardly, looking at the shadow undead of the man. Since the power of the man and the ape was quite low, he wasn't planning to save them as his permanent shadow undead. After knowing he can't get anything else from them, he cancelled Shadow Resurrection skill. Just as he cancelled the skill, both of them disappeared. Evan took out the storage ring that he got after killing the sniper. I hope that I will get some useful information about the Dark Guild from this ring, Evan said out loud, without knowing that the person he killed was not from the Dark Guild. He linked the ring with himself and looked inside it. As he looked inside the ring, the first thing that he saw made his heart skip a beat. With gleaming eyes, he took out a long sniper rifle out of the storage ring. Evan saw many artifacts that were similar to rifles on the internet. He even asked Alusia to see if she could get one for him. She told him about a few artifacts that were similar to rifles, but their rank was too low, so they were completely useless for him. But just looking at the obsidian color rifle that he took from the ring, he could tell that it was a high rank artifact. Carnage, A+ rank. Carnage is a sinister work of art. Its obsidian frame enhanced with star ore. The sole purpose to create Carnage was to kill its target. While wielding Carnage, you can use Focus, Mana Strengthening, Zephyr Precision, and Phantom Shot skills. Focus. Focus skill keeps the user's mind calm and improves his eyesight by 20 times. Mana Strengthening. You can use mana to improve the power of Carnage marksman's bullets. Zephyr Precision. The Carnage rifle's shots can be adjusted mid-flight, allowing user to change the trajectory of their bullets to hit targets from unexpected angles. Phantom Shot. Shots fired from the Carnage can phase through obstacles, allowing you to take down enemies who think they are safe behind cover. Can only be used 3 times a day. The power of shots fired from Carnage depends on the materials used in creating the bullets. If the material of the bullet is not good, then the power of the shots will be reduced. Greatly right parenthesis. I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. After reading the details of the rifle, Evan can't help but shudder a little. That guy must have used the Phantom Shot skill, which is why he was able to attack me so easily. Despite having multiple buildings in the way, Evan said while taking a deep breath. A acute plus or minus D plus or minus S inverted question mark V new L inverted question mark M. If I use this rifle's skills along with my temporal velocity skill. Evan thought out loud and his eyes shined like stars for a moment. He put aside the rifle for now and looked inside the ring again, but after seeing there were just some bullets inside the storage ring, Evan can't help but frown. Why is there nothing else? Evan muttered, and his expression turned ugly. He was hoping to get something useful from the storage ring that could give him some clues about Sarah or any other member of the Dark Guild, but seeing there were just some bullets inside the ring, he doesn't know what to say. The reason there was nothing inside the ring was because the person who tried to kill Evan was an assassin from the organization called Phantom. It is an organization that kills people as long as you hire them and pay a good price. To not disclose any information about their organization or its members, the assassins of this organization never bring anything with them other than their weapons or artifacts that can help them escape during a dangerous situation. Evan, who doesn't know all this, felt lost for a moment after seeing there was nothing. At first, he thought he will get some information from the shadow undeads of hunters. But when he did not get anything from the shadow undead, he thought he might get some information from the items inside the ring. Looks like I still need to wait for some time before I can take care of them, Evan muttered, taking out all the bullets from the storage ring. I wanted to take care of Dark Guild as soon as possible, so that I can focus on increasing the rank of my Monarch Corps, Evan said to himself while shaking his head. Because of his title Rule Breaker, he can use the Tower of Ascension after reaching A rank. Evan was still not sure whether he should use the tower after reaching A rank, or should he wait and use it after reaching S rank. I should think about the Tower of Ascension after taking care of Dark Guild, Evan muttered and looked at the bullets of Carnage. The bullets were 6 centimeters long, and were deep black in color. There were a total of 16 bullets inside the ring. When he looked at their details, he saw they were made of metal named Paluto. Although he was not sure what kind of metal this Paluto was, he was sure that it must be a high-rank material, because the bullets were looking quite powerful. At least after hearing that shadow undead, I can guess that there might be something wrong with this Inferno dungeon, Evan muttered and put away the bullets and rifle. Let's just wait for the tournament to start, because that bitch Sarah will definitely do something during it, and maybe I can get my hands on her during that time. Chapter 405. Okay, you may go, said a B+ rank hunter, giving Evan back his hunter card. Thank you. Evan thanked him and left the central city and entered the wilderness. The sun was still rising and it was early morning. As he came out of the city, he saw many hunters who were coming back from the wilderness after a night's hunt. Some had satisfied expressions on their faces, while some were disappointed because of not being able to get anything good. He even saw some people who were severely injured. After all, it is very normal for hunters to get injured while hunting. After leaving the city, he used shadow wings and flew away, leaving the area of the central city. As he flew, from time to time he would disappear from his position and then reappear some distance away, greatly increasing his speed. This new skill is really good, Evan muttered under his breath as he continued to fly away from the city. Last night, after checking the storage ring of the person who almost killed him, Evan absorbed all the cores that he collected so far, leaving behind only 4 A+ rank cores. After absorbing all the cores, he got 4 skills from them, and currently, he was using one of them while flying. Flicker Step. Using this skill you can take rapid, almost teleport-like steps to cover short distances quickly, but it rapidly depletes your stamina. Suddenly he saw a 5 meters long ghost crow, which was flying 5 kilometers away from him. The ghost crow was at C+ rank, and its body was completely black just like normal crows. Seeing the ghost crow, Evan's lips curled upwards. Without any warning, he used flicker steps one after another, and arrived before the crow in an instant. The ghost crow was stunned when Evans suddenly appeared in front of it, but before it could understand what was happening, Evan's fist glowed with azure light, and he used another skill that he received last night. Sonic Resonance. Using this skill, you can tap into sonic vibrations, turning your punches into shockwaves that resonate at high frequencies. The power of these shockwaves depends on the strength and agility of the user. Just as the azure light appeared, powerful sonic vibration came out of his fist. He tapped the head of the ghost crow at lightning speed, and the next second, bang, the body of the ghost crow exploded into blood mist. A powerful gust of wind came out of nowhere, and the blood mist was blown away by it. The azure glow around Evan's fist disappeared, and he tried his best not to put his hands on his waist, look at the sky at 90-degree angle, and laugh like an arrogant young master. Even though my monarch core hasn't even reached a quarter mark of B rank after absorbing so many cores, the growth in my power cannot be underestimated, Evan muttered, turning into a shadow that disappeared from the place he was standing. In just a few minutes he was hundreds of kilometers away from the central city. He used his spiritual senses that could now cover more than 10 kilometers of area, and confirmed there were no hunters in that area. After confirming there was no one, Evan used Flicker Spec and appeared on the ground. I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. His breathing was slightly labored because Flicker Steps consumed too much stamina. Just as his feet touched the ground, his shadow flickered and 3 shadow undeads came out of it. The 3 shadow undeads were Adam, Rocky Arca the Cockatrice, and the last one was a Mirage Wyvern. Mirage Wyverns are known for their illusion magic, and are quite rare. Even though he killed many wyverns in the dungeon, he encountered only 1 Mirage Wyvern. Since he had only 1 Mirage Wyvern, Evan just gave it the name Mirage. After summoning 3 of them, Evan went towards Adam. Adam, you know how to see the map, right? Evan asked while taking out a map from his storage ring, although he already knew the answer. Yes, Master. Adam nodded his head. Good, Evan said, and showed him the map he took out earlier. An area was marked with a red circle on the map. He pointed to the marked area. Go to this marked place with Rocky and Mirage. I want you guys to search this whole area which I have marked on the map. See if you can find anything there. Adam took the map from Evan and looked at the marked area. After seeing the marked area, he did not ask any questions and just nodded his head. While searching, use Mirage's ability to conceal yourself. Okay, Adam said and looked at Rocky and Mirage. The spot he marked on the map was the area Sebastian had told him where the Inferno dungeon might be located. After hearing from the shadow undead of the B+ rank hunter that he was kidnapped from the wilderness of the city of Ravenhurst, Evan felt that something may be wrong with this dungeon. That is why he decided to send his shadow undeads there. Rocky, you are the strongest among them. Keep your comrades safe. Evan looked at Rocky and said in a light voice. He was not concerned about them after all. Even if they were to destroy, he can summon them again. Kukjiku. But Rocky took his words seriously and nodded its head. And by the way, there might be people of Hunter Association in that area. Try your best to avoid them, Evan said to Adam. After remembering people of the special unit of Hunter Association were also searching for something in that area. Adam nodded his head and sat down on Rocky's back. Contact me using shadow sensors if you found something. Evan waved his hand, and Rocky and Mirage flew away from the wilderness, heading towards Ravenhurst City. With their speed, they should be able to reach there in 2 or 3 days, Evan thought to himself, as he watched his shadow undeads flying away. Chapter 406. After Adam left with Rocky and Mirage, Evan didn't return to the city immediately. After sending them off, he wandered around the wilderness for around 2 hours, and hunted down all the monsters he could find. After hunting them down, he used energy devouring skill to absorb their energy to increase the rank of his core, and some time to recover his stamina. During this time, he also tested his other skill that he received last night, and was quite pleased with the results. Ember Vitality. Using this skill you can draw energy from fire or heat sources, and use this energy to heal and recover from injuries. Evan got this skill after absorbing the core of a solar wyvern. He tested the healing power of this skill, and found he could heal his minor injuries, using this skill without any problem. As for the 4th skill that he got, he didn't dare to try that because he was uncertain about that skill. Although I don't think anything bad will happen if I use this skill, but still, Evan thought to himself after remembering the details of the skills. In the end, he shook his head and stopped thinking about the 4th skill he received for the time being. He looked at the time and saw it was already 7 o'clock, and the sun was fully up, so he decided to go back. Using his shadow wings and flicker steps, Evan arrived in front of the city gate in just a few minutes. Just like before, he showed his hunter card and went inside the city. While going back towards the hotel, he bought 2 sunshine pancake rolls for breakfast. Last night when he was walking around the city and tasting different kinds of food, he heard that this pancake is the most famous breakfast in the central city, so he wanted to try it. As he ate the pancake roll while walking, he can't help but nod his head in satisfaction. He had to admit that the food in the central city was much better than a straight city. Just as he reached the hotel, he suddenly saw Valerie, Gloria and others. The 4 of them also noticed Evan, and when he looked into their hands, he saw they were also holding pancake rolls in them. Looks like I am not the only one who is enjoying the food. Here Evan finished his pancake roll by taking the last bite and thought to himself, "You are not sleeping anymore." What Valerie asked as 4 of them saw him. "I just went out for breakfast. Now that I am full, I am going back to sleep again," Evan replied to her, while throwing the wrapper of the roll into the dustbin, which was placed some distance away from him. The mouth of Amy and others twitched furiously when they heard he was planning to sleep again. "From your sweaty appearance and those blood stains, I don't think you just went out to eat breakfast," Valerie said in a sarcastic voice, while pointing at his appearance and some small blood stains on his clothes. Evan looked at the place Valerie was pointing at and saw some blood drops on his clothes. "Although I was using a wind barrier to stop blood." Evan shook his head when he saw the blood on his clothes. "Well, I need to maintain my health, so I just went into the wilderness for some morning exercise before eating the breakfast," Evan said like it was not a big deal. But Gloria, Amy and Jackson looked at him like he is a madman. Only Valerie was looking at him with normal eyes. "You went hunting monsters for exercise?" Jackson asked. "Yeah, is there something wrong with this?" Evan asked with a confused face when he saw how they were looking at him. "I think you should take a look at a acute plus or minus D plus or minus novel. C inverted question mark M. Jackson's mouth shook when he heard Evan. He wanted to shout only a madman will go into the wilderness and kill monsters for exercise, but he decided to keep his mouth shut. Suddenly all 5 of them saw a bus coming towards them. When they saw the banner at the top of the bus they immediately recognized it. "They are from the Arcanum Academy," Valerie said after seeing the logo at the top of the bus. Arcanum Academy is located in Aquaville City. When Evan saw the bus coming, for some reason he felt a little uncomfortable. "Why am I feeling uneasy?" Evan frowned and looked at the incoming bus with narrowed eyes. Soon the bus stopped some distance away from them. 4 people who were at A+ rank came out of the bus. They must be teachers of the academy, Evan thought when he saw 2 males and 2 females. After the teachers, 5 young people came out of the bus. When Evan saw those 5 people, he felt he saw them somewhere. Suddenly his eyes trembled when he remembered where he saw them, and at the same time, he finally understood why he was feeling uneasy. This trap guy again. Evan's mouth can't help but twitch when he saw the trap guy he saw in the Aquaville city, among the 5 people who just came out of the bus. The other 4 were people he saw during the Orc Den mission with the trap guy. Note: read back at chapter 181. So beautiful. Suddenly Evan heard Jackson muttering to himself. When he glanced at him, he saw Jackson was looking at Noah, aka the trap guy, like he was spellbound by his looks. He noticed even Valerie and the other 2 girls were looking at the trap guy with their eyes wide open. This guy become even more beautiful. Evan couldn't help but think when he saw Noah advance to B rank, and his charm increased even more. I will try to get her number, Jackson suddenly said in a serious voice. Evan sighed out loud and looked at Jackson. As your teammate, I have one piece of advice for you. Jackson came out of his spellbound state and looked at Evan after hearing him. Valerie and others also looked at him, wondering what he wanted to say. Don't always trust your eyes, sometimes we need to use our ears to see the real face of someone. Huh? Jackson made a strange sound and looked at him with a confused face. Valerie and others were also confused, and did not understand what he wanted to say. What do you mean? Jackson asked him when he did not understand what Evan was trying to say. Well, although I can directly tell you what I mean, I think it will be good for you to experience it yourself. Evan said and turned around to leave. Just remember that don't trust your eyes, because if he decided to take it out, his might be bigger than yours. What the hell is this guy trying to say? Jackson said out loud when he saw Evan leaving from there. Evan ignored Jackson and gave a command to Eclipse while moving away. Eclipse came out of his shadow storage using stealth skill and disappeared from there. Chapter 407. Jackson felt that the whole world was collapsing before his eyes. He couldn't believe what he was seeing in front of him. It would be more accurate to say that he couldn't believe what his ears were hearing. Should we look around the city? This is the first time I've come to the central city. Bang! Jackson took a step back when he heard a dream-destroying manly voice coming out of the tiny mouth of the most beautiful woman he had ever seen in his entire life. His head started spinning as if he had been hit with a hammer. The mouth of Valerie, Amy and Gloria opened in O shape, and they also looked in front of them with a dazed look. As your teammate, I have one piece of advice for you. Don't always trust your eyes, sometimes we need to use our ears to see the real face of someone. For some reason, all 4 of them remember what Evan said to them, and they finally understood what he meant by those words. But there was still one thing that a certain brain-dead woman didn't understand, and since she didn't understand, she looked at her good teammates and asked without hesitation, I understand his first advice. But what about the thing that he said before leaving? Jackson's face turned pale when he heard Valerie and Evan's last word ring inside his mind. Just remember that don't trust your eyes, because if he decided to take it out, his might be bigger than yours. With shaking eyes, Jackson's eyes looked at the certain body part of Noah. Meanwhile, Gloria and Amy's faces turned beet red, and they glared at Valerie for talking dirty. Looking at Gloria and Amy's red faces and how they were glaring at her, question marks appeared above Valerie's head, and she looked at them in confusion. Seeing the confused look on Valerie's face, only one thought came into Gloria and Amy's mind. This woman is a lost cause. Evan, who already went inside the hotel, staggered and almost fell down. He was wearing whispering earring, so he was easily able to hear what Valerie said. The mind of this woman. Evan doesn't even know what to say when he heard her. According to that girl named Ava, every man who sees Noah for the first time will experience a nightmare similar to what I experienced after seeing him because of his strange, unique physique. Evan muttered to himself, trying his best not to think about that dark memory of his. Well, I hope poor Jackson will be able to get some good night's sleep today, Evan said with a smile of a devil on his face. For some reason, he was feeling quite good, after knowing someone other than him also going to experience the worst nightmare of his life. I think you should take a look at a acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. Even though his unique physique works like a shady pill, it is still a unique physique, so the chances of Sarah targeting him are quite high. Earlier, Evan released Eclipse to keep an eye on Noah, so that he will know if the Dark Guild tries to do something to him, just like what they did to him. It will be good if I can get some clues before the start of the tournament, Evan thought to himself as he went inside the elevator. The moon was shining high in the sky, on the top floor of the biggest building in the central city. Natasha was looking at some reports. So you didn't find anything? After reading the reports, Natasha looked at the man who was standing in front of her. Yes, we searched the whole area, but we could not find anything, the man said while shaking her head. Natasha sighed out loud and waved her hand. All right, you can leave. Should we increase the guards around the city? The man asked with some hesitation before leaving. Natasha shook her head and said in a calm voice, there's no need for that. The tournament starts tomorrow, so make sure nothing goes wrong, okay? The man nodded his head after hearing Natasha and left the room. Bang! As soon as the man left the room, Natasha slammed the document in her hands on the table. An irritated expression appeared on her wrinkled face, and she cursed in his heart. That stupid Sarah came to the city only a few days ago, and she messed up on the first try. After a few more minutes of cursing, Natasha took a few deep breaths. It's a good thing they don't know my real identity, otherwise who knows what kind of mess they would create. But the kid that Sarah is trying to catch is really something else. Even though he was surrounded by so many hunters, he was able to escape from there without any problem, Natasha said, as she looked at the city from the window of the building. Even though I do not think that stupid Sarah will try to do anything after what happened yesterday, I should still send someone to keep an eye on the hotel where that kid is staying. Sarah muttered and rubbed her temples. If an incident like yesterday happened once again, it will surely attract the attention of those S-rank hunters who came to the city because of the tournament. Sarah pressed a black button which was present on her table. A few minutes later, the door of her office room opened and a man wearing black clothes came in. You called me, President? The man asked while lowering his head after coming into the room. The aura around the man was that of an A+ rank hunter. Go to the Bright Moon Hotel where the tournament participants are staying. Make sure that an incident like yesterday does not happen again, Natasha said to the man who came in. Okay? The man didn't ask any questions after listening to Natasha, and just nodded his head. Seeing Natasha saying nothing more, the man bowed his head for the last time and left the room. Chapter 408. Baphomet was standing inside a hall room. In the center of the room, a 10-meter wide, bright red magic circle was glowing with a faint black light. Deep red miasma was coming out from the magic circle from time to time. I never thought something like this would happen, Baphomet muttered to himself as he looked at some of the notifications he had received a few days ago after Malphace's death. One of your disaster level marked demons is dead. The third effect of your skill, Demon Domination, is unlocked. Demon Domination third effect. You can revive all your marked demons that are of disaster class or above for one time after their death. As a side effect of coming back to life after death, the revived demon's power will be reduced by 2 levels. The time taken in reviving the demons will depend on their ranks. Currently, disaster class demon Malphacer is being revived. Time remaining before the revival, 10 days 18 hours and 12 minutes. It was the first time a disaster class demon that Baphomet marked using his demon domination skill died, so he was completely unaware of the third effect of his demon domination skill, that unlocked after Malphace's death. I finally supplied enough energy to bring him back to life, Baphomet said to himself, seeing the glowing magic circle in front of him. In order to bring Malphacer back to life, Baphomet had to provide a large amount of his demonic energy. For the past few days, he was continuously providing energy to the magic circle that appeared after he activated the third effect of his skill. It will take him 10 days to come back to life. I should visit Winterclaw in the meantime, since I want to know a few things, Baphomet muttered and disappeared from the whole room. He appeared inside another room which was filled with teleportation circles. Using one of them that was connected to Frozen Monarchy, Baphomet disappeared from the teleportation room. Winterclaw, who was sitting inside his castle, suddenly felt something and opened his dark blue eyes. Has the seal finally been broken? When Winterclaw felt Baphomet's presence, he muttered to himself as Baphomet told him that he would come looking for him again, once the seal of the Shadow Realm will break. A few seconds later, a deep red portal opened inside the throne room, where Winterclaw was present, and Baphomet came out of it. You came back earlier than I expected, Winterclaw said with an impassive expression on his face, but Baphomet could sense a slight excitement in his voice. Some things happened, so I had no choice but to come to find you, Baphomet said, and just like last time created a throne with a wave of his hand and sat down on it. A frown appeared on Winterclaw's Yeti-like face when he realized the seal of the Shadow Realm is still intact. Is there a problem with the Shadow Realm? I think you should take a look at a acute +or-d +or-snovel.c inverted question mark m. First let me ask you something. Baphomet looked into Winterclaw's deep blue eyes and asked, "Are you sure there is no one inside the Shadow Realm except Anastasia, and she can't come out of it?" Winterclaw raised an eyebrow when he heard Baphomet, not understanding why he asked such a question, but looking at his serious face, he still nodded his head. "As far as I know, that bastard was never close to anyone other than Anastasia. So after his death, the chances of anyone other than Anastasia being in the Shadow Realm are almost close to none. And since you are also the master of the Demon Realm, you should be well aware of the restrictions one faces if he has partial control over a realm. I am 100% certain that Anastasia cannot come out of the Shadow Realm." Baphomet frowned when he heard Baphomet, but still nodded his head, because he knew what happens when a person doesn't have full control over a realm. "What about his Shadow Army?" "According to the records that I read, there were millions of Shadow Undeads in his army. What happened to them after his death?" Baphomet asked after hearing Winterclaw's response. "Since he is dead, it is obvious all of them disappeared. Those Shadow Undeads were created by him using his class skill. You can say that he was the origin of those Shadow Undeads. And since their origin disappeared, there is no way they could sustain themselves." "Why are you asking all these questions?" Winterclaw felt something was not right, and for some reason, he started to feel a little uneasy. "Somebody killed all the demons working to break the seal of the Shadow Realm, including Malfacer," Baphomet said in a deep voice as murderous intent flashed in his deep red eyes. "Before he died, he sent me some information that a black hand came out of the portal of the Shadow Realm and used a large-scale destruction level skill. If you are right and there is no one inside the Shadow Realm other than Anastasia, then who was the person who used that skill?" The frown on Winterclaw's face deepened when he heard Baphomet. He is already thousands of years old, so he kept his calm even though the thing that Baphomet said was completely impossible in his eyes. "There is one more reason I came here," suddenly Baphomet said, attracting Winterclaw's attention. He stretched out one of his hands, and the conceptual energy that he collected from the outside of the Shadow Realm appeared in his palm. Impossible. Before Baphomet could say anything after summoning the energy, Winterclaw suddenly stood up from his throne and shouted out loud. Baphomet was startled because it was the first time he saw Winterclaw acting like this. This energy.it is the underscore. Before Winterclaw could finish his words, the white fur around his stomach began to disappear. Within seconds the fur around his stomach completely disappeared, and Baphomet was stunned when he saw a hole in Winterclaw's stomach. A strange black energy was trying to devour his flesh, but a light blue energy was enveloping the black energy and barely preventing it from devouring his flesh. Chapter 409. How is this possible? No, there must be something wrong, Winterclaw shouted out loud like he had gone mad. A terrifying cold aura came out of his body. The aura coming out of his body was so cold that even the space around him was frozen solid. Even people who were thousands of kilometers away from him felt their souls freezing. Baphomet was stunned seeing Winterclaw's strange behavior. It was the first time he saw cold and indifferent Winterclaw losing control over his emotions like this. He looked at the hole in Winterclaw's stomach and the energy in his hand. That black energy around his wound and the energy that I collected, Baphomet thought to himself, but soon his eyes opened wide. When he carefully looked at both of the energy, he was easily able to feel that both of them were quite similar to each other. The only difference was that the energy around Winterclaw's wound was thousands of times more powerful than the energy he collected from the outside of the Shadow Realm. Where did you get the traces of this energy? Winterclaw asked in a hurried voice, completely ignoring the wound in his stomach. Baphomet stopped looking at Winterclaw's wound and told him how he found the energy outside of the Shadow Realm. For some reason, he was feeling that the things regarding Shadow Realm is going to become more complicated than he initially thought. After knowing how Baphomet got this energy outside the Shadow Realm, Winterclaw stood in place without saying anything. Baphomet looked at him intently and saw that many emotions were flashing in his eyes, from confusion to anger, fear and many more. But the strongest emotion he felt was undoubtedly the emotion of hatred. After around 5 minutes, the cold aura around Winterclaw started to disappear, and his expression slowly returned to normal. He sat back on his throne and took some deep breaths. Seeing Winterclaw finally return to normal, Baphomet could not hold himself back anymore and asked the question that was bothering him. What kind of conceptual energy is this? Although after seeing Winterclaw's reaction and remembering the wound in his stomach, Baphomet could already guess what kind of energy was in his hands. But he still asked because he did not want to believe it. Winterclaw didn't answer immediately and continued to look at Baphomet, or more accurate to say continued to look at the energy in his hands. After around 1 minute, when Baphomet started to lose his patience, Winterclaw finally opened his mouth. Even though the power of this energy is very low when compared to the real one, I can feel two types of conceptual energies from it. The first energy I can feel is the conceptual energy of destruction. Winterclaw stopped looking at the energy in Baphomet's hand and looked at the wound in his stomach. He stayed quiet for some time before speaking once again. And the second energy that I am feeling from it is the conceptual energy of death. Although Volta used the conceptual energy of death and the rune of evolution enhanced it greatly, his main energy was still the conceptual energy of destruction, which is why Winterclaw felt two different kinds of energies. Although Baphomet already expected this after seeing Winterclaw's reaction, his body still shook after hearing Winterclaw's answer. I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. He took some deep breaths to not lose his composure and asked in a deep voice, how is this possible? You should know better than me that the only person who was ever able to harness this energy is already dead. Winterclaw also frowned after hearing Baphomet because he couldn't understand what was going on. Is it possible that Shadow Monarch is still alive? After all, other than him, I can't think of anyone who can use this energy. Suddenly Baphomet said. A sneering expression appeared on Winterclaw's beastly face after hearing Baphomet, and he shook his head. That is impossible. There can only be 5 forbidden physique holders at a time. If he were alive, you wouldn't have been born with your demon monarch physique. Not giving Baphomet any chance to speak, Winterclaw continued. I think that Anastasia used some kind of artifact left behind by that bastard. Artifact? Baphomet looked at him in confusion. Yes, an artifact. Winterclaw nodded his head. As you know, there are many one-time use artifacts that you can use to store your attacks. I think Anastasia used an artifact that contained that bastard's attack. Even though it is hard to believe that he was able to create an artifact that can store the conceptual energy of death, I think it is not impossible considering he had many shadow undeads who were quite good when it comes to making artifacts. Baphomet noticed a tinge of jealousy in Winterclaw's voice when he said the last sentence, but he did not care about it, because he was thinking about what he just heard. If it was an artifact, then it perfectly made sense how I found the traces of conceptual energy of death, Baphomet thought to himself. It also cleared his doubt that Anastasia did not come out of the Shadow Realm, because even though she can't come out, she can still throw out an artifact outside from the portal of the Shadow Realm. By the way, I think you should meet Akosha. Suddenly Winterclaw caught Baphomet's attention and said, no one knows Anastasia better than she does, so if you want to deal with Anastasia without losing anything, you should meet her. I heard you helped her with something a few years ago, so I don't think she would reject you if you ask for her help. Hearing Winterclaw, Baphomet's deep red eyes flashed. Indeed, I should meet her, he thought to himself, but then he can't help but curse inwardly. Instead of this ape, I should have told Akosha about the Shadow Realm from the beginning. After getting his answer regarding the energy that he found, Baphomet stood up. I will be going then, he said, and a red portal appeared in front of him. A acute plus or minus D plus or minus S inverted question mark vel.c inverted question mark, and don't forget to notify me when you successfully break the seal, Winterclaw said before Baphomet could go inside the portal. Baphomet sneered inwardly, but his expression did not change, and he nodded his head. After nodding his head, he did not wait for his response and went inside the portal. Chapter 410. Evan was looking at the night sky with a troubled look on his face. There were less than 12 hours left before the start of the tournament, but Evan was thinking about a completely different matter. Just what the hell is wrong with me? He muttered while sighing out loud. He had a troubled look on his face, not because of the Dark Guild or any other reason. He was troubled because of himself. Earlier, the students of Clear Sky Academy also arrived at the hotel, and just as Evan expected, the students who came from Clear Sky Academy were Sophie and others who were his teammates during the monster tide of Naflium City. Since they knew Evan is also participating in the tournament, Mark called him after arriving at the hotel. When Evan saw Mark was calling him, he didn't know why, but for some reason he felt he didn't want to meet them. It was the same feeling that he got when Valerie and others asked him if he want to roam around the city with them. Something inside him kept telling him to stay away from people for some reason. I started feeling like this after I killed Olivia, muttered Evan, looking up at the sky in deep thought. Although he knew that he never liked interacting with people, it was not to the extent that he avoided meeting practically everyone. Now that I think about it, I don't even know why I don't like talking to people. Even in my previous life, I didn't have any friends because I never tried to make any. I was an orphan whose parents died. Only God knows how since I never met them. After saying this, his face became strange, even in those nonsense dreams that I see occasionally. I am always alone, doing stupid stuff here and there. The more Evan thought about it, the more he felt there is something wrong with him. When I killed Olivia, my feelings were completely cold. At that time I was like a completely different person. I even destroyed the armor she was wearing, which I would have never destroyed considering my Asolic-like poor personality. As he continued to think about his behavior when he killed Olivia, Evan felt he was very close to getting his answer. Your title ? Is reacting. A acute plus or minus D plus or minus S inverted ? Vel.C inverted ? M. But a notification flashed on his status window, and that feeling suddenly disappeared. The notification came and disappeared like a ghost that he didn't even notice it. A confused expression appeared on Evan's face when that feeling suddenly disappeared. He wanted to keep thinking about it because he was feeling that he is very close to his answers, but suddenly he received a message from one of his shadow undeads. He used his shadow senses to see what was happening, but when he saw the scene in front of him after using shadow senses, he was completely dumbfounded. In front of him, an A+ rank hunter was sitting on his knees with both of his hands raised in a surrender position. His face was covered in blood, and some of his teeth were broken. The eyes of the A+ rank hunter were completely unfocused, and he was looking at a small Miko-chan with a worshipped look on his face. Looks like even an A+ rank hunter can't ignore the charm of Hana-chan, Evan said with a twitching mouth, and used shadow wings to go to the rooftop of the hotel. 5 minutes earlier, I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.C inverted ? M. Nicole, the man who was sent by Natasha to keep an eye on the hotel, so that he could prevent any accident in time, was moving towards his destination like the wind. In just a few minutes after leaving Natasha's office, he was about to reach the hotel. Since the man knew he had to stop anyone who tried to harm the participants of the tournament, he decided to stay on the roof of the hotel and monitor the surrounding, using his spiritual senses all night. Even though he felt like a watchdog doing a stupid task like this, as someone who is very serious when it comes to his job, Nicole didn't complain about it. Soon he was at the top of the roof and was ready to start his night guard duty. But as he was about to use his spiritual sense, a small black cat who was sitting in one of the corners of the roof with its eyes closed, opened its eyes and looked at him. The small cat was Hana, whom Evan sent out earlier to monitor the surroundings of the hotel for him. Since it was very small, it was very easy for it to monitor the surroundings while hiding. Hana looked at the man who was wearing black clothes and a black mask. Hana's spiritual power was very high, so it was easily able to feel that Nicole was about to use spiritual senses. Suddenly some strange spiritual waves came out of Hana's body. Nicole, who was about to use his spiritual senses, froze. His eyes became hazy and he slowly turned back, looking in Hana's direction. But just as he turned around, like a tsunami, his spiritual power surged forth, and he was able to break free from Hana's skill. Seeing the small cat with burning purple eyes, Nicole felt all hairs on his body stand up to no end. Immediately he tried to move back, but to his horror, he found even though he was able to clear his mind, his body was not listening to his order. Suddenly the purple flames in Hana's eyes flickered, and without being able to control his own body, Nicole smashed his fist on his own face. Bang dash. Nicole felt his head spinning, and his nose was broken, but even before he could recover, his fist moved once again and bang, bang, bang. Without being able to control his own body, Nicole continues to smash his face. In just a few seconds his face turned bloody, and some of his teeth were broken. Because of the beating, Nicole was not able to control his spiritual power. The flames in Hana's eyes flickered even more, and this time it was easily able to control Nicole's mind. Nicole's eyes turned completely blurry after Hana took control of his mind. It gave Nicole a command to sit down on his knees. After Nicole sat down, Hana nodded its head and finally contacted its master to get some praise for catching a suspicious person. Chapter 411. Even though it's been a few days since Evan turned the little cat into a shadow undead, he still wasn't able to see its skill, using the second effect of the growth link skill. Although Evan wasn't sure, if he had to guess, he'd say it had something to do with the strange way it died. He asked Hana what happened that day when it tried to control his shadow undeads using its psychic skill, but even the little cat wasn't sure what happened. According to it, just as its psychic waves went inside his shadow undeads' bodies, it received a strong backlash and died as a result. He even asked his other shadow undeads if they felt anything when Hana tried to control them, but they all shook their heads because they didn't feel anything. When Evan landed on the terrace of the hotel, he saw a man with a bloodied face and broken teeth looking at Hana with a look of worship on his face. Although he already knew that Hana's spiritual power was off the charts, it was still hard for him to believe how easily it was controlling an A+ rank hunter. Meow. After seeing Evan, Hana ran towards him like an excited kitten. Just looking at it, Evan could tell that it was asking him to praise it for capturing a suspicious person. Evan rolled his eyes seeing Hana's excited expression, but still picked it up in his arms and patted its head. So who is this guy now? Evan muttered to himself and walked towards the man while carrying Hana. The man was still Hana's control, so he didn't react when Evan stopped in front of him. Upon careful inspection, Evan noticed the man was wearing a mask, but it was completely broken because of some reason. It looks like he's just another dog of the Dark Guild since he was hiding his face, Evan said, and looked at Hana. Can you control him in such a way that he would answer all the questions I ask? He could have turned the man into a shadow undead to get all his answers, but he didn't because he wasn't 100% sure that the man in front of him is an enemy. Hearing him, Hana nodded its head and its eyes flickered once again. Meow. After a few seconds, Hana looked back at him and meowed out, telling him he can now ask his questions. You are the best, Evan said to the small cat in a genuine voice, and looked back at the man. What is your name, mister? Evan asked as he sat down at the edge of the terrace. Nicole, the man answered immediately with his eyes fixed on Hana. So Mr. Nicole, who sent you here, and what was your motive? President Natasha sent me here. She wanted me to keep an eye on the hotel where the participants of the tournament are staying, so that I can protect them. What? Evan stood up and looked at the man with a shocked face. You came here to protect the tournament participants? Yes. The man nodded his head, still looking at Hana adoringly. I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. FU asterisk K. Evan can't help but curse when he realized little Nico-chan beat down the wrong person. He was thinking that this person might be someone from the Dark Guild or related to the person who used the enfibling curse on him, but he never thought that he would be someone from the Hunter Association. His mouth can't help but twitch seeing the broken teeth of the man. Well, there is no point in crying over spilled milk, Evan said, and summoned Elijah. Heal him. Elijah extended her hand, and a white energy enveloped Nicole. In just a few seconds, Nicole fully recovered, but he still stayed under Hana's control. After healing Nicole, Evan thought about what he should do with him, when suddenly a question came into his mind. Why did President Natasha send you here to protect the participants? I mean, is there anyone who wants to harm them? Evan knew Sarah is targeting students who possess a unique physique, and are here to participate in the tournament. But he knew about this only because of the information he gathered in the past. According to him, it is very unlikely that Natasha knew about this matter, so he was truly confused why she sent this guy here. Hearing Evan's question, the man shook his head. I don't know, she just told me to keep an eye here, and prevent any kind of mishaps. But if I have to guess, I would say she sent me here because of what happened yesterday. Is that so? Evan said, feeling strange that she sent him to protect the students. Because currently there are many A+ rank teachers who are present in the hotel. Unless an S rank hunter tries to do something, Evan was sure that nothing can happen here. Even though he felt it was strange, he did not think too much about it. Hana, he won't remember this conversation after you stop controlling his mind, right? Evan asked because he remembered how the monsters Hana was controlling in the wilderness were confused after it died and they regained their senses. Hana nodded its head after hearing Evan. Seeing it was nodding its head, Evan once again looked at Elijah. Without saying anything, Elijah walked toward Nicole. After coming in front of him, Elijah lifted one of her hands and gave him a karate chop. Nicole's eyes rolled inside his head, and he immediately fainted after receiving the karate chop. Evan was envious when he saw this because he also wanted to make people faint with just a single karate chop, but unfortunately, wherever he tried something like this in the past, it never worked. Let's go and get some good sleep since the tournament will start tomorrow, Evan muttered to himself and decided to go back. Since Nicole came here to protect them, he had no intention of harming him. But just as he was getting ready to go back, he looked in a certain direction and his eyes flashed. He tried to focus with his spiritual senses, and soon a faint smile appeared on his face. I hope this guy will be useful, Evan muttered and sat down at the edge of the terrace once again. Chapter 412. Leaping from one building to another, a blurry figure of a man was moving towards the Moonlight Hotel. The aura around the man was that of B-rank hunter, and from his blurry figure, it was clear that he was using a skill to conceal his presence. Damn, why the hell do I always get these kinds of shitty tasks? The man cursed under his breath as he continued to move forward. The name of the man was Ralph, and he was a low-level assassin of the Phantom Organization. The person who went to assassinate Evan yesterday has not contacted the organization even after more than 24 hours. So they sent Ralph here to check if he can find any information about him. As Ralph was moving and was just a few kilometers away from the hotel, he suddenly felt a chill running down his spine. Before he could understand the reason behind the sudden chill, a black elf girl with purple flaming eyes appeared before him and gave him a karate chop right at the neck. Ralph's eyes rolled inside his head, and he immediately fainted. Elijah lifted unconscious Ralph and brought him to the hotel terrace where Evan was waiting for her. Just by looking at his crooked face, I can say that he is not a good soul, Evan muttered and patted Hana's head. Can you control his mind as well? Hana nodded its head and psychic waves came out of its body. Since Ralph was unconscious, it was very easy for it to control its mind. Meow. Hana looked at Evan after it took control of Ralph's mind. Elijah Evan looked at the undead elf who immediately understood what he wanted. A white light came out of her hand and enveloped Ralph's body. Like he was struck by lightning, Ralph was jolted awake, but Evan could see that his eyes were completely blurry. Who are you, mister? Evan asked, wondering if this guy is also someone from the Hunter Association. I am Ralph, a low-level assassin from Phantom Organization. Evan ? Assassin, Phantom Organization. What is this? So you are not from the Dark Guild or the Hunters Association? Evan asked with a weird look on his face. No, Ralph shook his head immediately. Evan stayed silent for a few minutes after hearing Ralph, thinking that he had once again captured the wrong man. So, what is this Phantom Organization? Evan asked while sighing out loud. Hearing Evan, Ralph told him about how it is an organization that assassinates people. He also told him that they only accept missions to kill people below the A+ rank. So you accepted a mission and came here to kill someone, Evan said, thinking that he might have saved someone's life by capturing Ralph. No, I'm not here to kill anyone. A member of our organization accepted a mission, but we haven't heard from him for more than 24 hours, so I'm here to look for him, Ralph said while shaking his head. Oh, Evan raised an eyebrow after hearing Ralph. Do you know who was the target of this man who accepted the mission? His target was a B+ rank hunter, Evan. Evan's face stiffened when he heard the name of the target. By any chance is this Evan came here to participate in the tournament? I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. Yes. Evan's face can't help but twitch when Ralph confirmed that someone wanted to assassinate him. Suddenly he thought about the person who shot him yesterday, and his face becomes strange. Does the person who accepted the mission use a weapon like this? Evan asked while showing carnage. Yes, he is a long-range shooter, Ralph nodded his head after seeing the rifle. Damn, I was thinking that guy was someone from the Dark Guild, but it turns out he is an assassin of this Phantom Organization, Evan muttered to himself, not knowing what to say. He took some deep breaths to calm down his mind. I don't think Sarah or the people of the Dark Guild would hire an assassin to kill me. Suddenly Evan thought about the person who used enfibling curse on him. Even though it is just a guess, I am 90% sure the person who issued my assassination mission is the person who used the enfibling curse on me. Do you know who is the person you issued the mission regarding my assassination? Evan asked Ralph. No. Although he already expected this, Evan can't help but rub his temples in annoyance because of not knowing the identity of the person who hired the assassin. Is there a way I can find the identity of the person who issued my assassination mission? Evan asked Ralph after a moment of silence. I joined the organization recently, so I don't know much about them, Ralph said while shaking his head. Seeing him shaking his head, Evan felt like slapping him to death. But suddenly Ralph opened his mouth again. I don't know if this will work or not, but there is a small chance that you might be able to find the identity of the person who issued the missions. Tell me, Evan said in an urgent voice. He did not care if the chances were low, because as long as he can get a small clue about the identity of the person, he was willing to try it. Under Hana's control, Ralph started to tell him everything he knew. Evan couldn't help but frown when Ralph told him everything. It is more complicated than I thought, Evan said and sighed inwardly. But I already expected something like this, since these guys even dare to accept missions of assassinating even A-rank hunters. After muttering, Evan looked at Elijah, who just like before once again gave a karate chop to Ralph. Ralph once again fainted after receiving a karate chop. Throw him somewhere on the streets, Evan said to Elijah, who picked up Ralph and disappeared from the place she was standing. Elijah came back after 1 minute, and without saying anything, Evan summoned her back. He looked at the unconscious Nicole one last time, before shadow wings appeared on his back. Although I want to look for the person who issued my assassination mission, I can't do it for now, since the tournament will start tomorrow. Using shadow wings, Evan left the terrace of the hotel and went back to his room. The night passed without anything else happening, and finally, the day of the tournament arrived. Chapter 413. The following day, Evan left his room and made his way to the front of the hotel, where 4 buses were waiting to transport the participants to the tournament. Each bus had logos of different academies at the top of them. There will be a total of 5 academies that will participate in the tournament. Astarte Academy, Astarte City, Arcanum Academy, Aquaville City, Clear Sky Academy, Naflium City, Black Raven Academy, Ravehurst City, Central Academy, Central City. Since the Central Academy is located in the Central City, their students were not staying in the hotel with other participants. Just as Evan came out, he noticed 2 girls and 3 boys talking to each other some distance away from him. Suddenly one of the girls looked in his direction, and Evan can't help but sigh in his heart. Yo, I thought you actually lied at that time when you said you will participate in the tournament, since you didn't answer our call, Sophie said loudly while waving at him. Hearing Sophie, David, Caleb, Mike and a girl who had silver color hair looked in Evan's direction. Looks like I can't avoid them this time, Evan thought inwardly and went towards them. I was busy with some work yesterday, so could not answer your call, Evan lied through his teeth as he stopped in front of them. Don't worry about that, Mark said, and rested his large shield on the ground. Just like last time, Sophie was the only one looks normal in his eyes. Even though they were still outside of the hotel, Mark was carrying his big shield because of his guarding complex. Caleb was looking at him with glistening eyes, but he wisely ignored him knowing his personality. I wonder what will happen when this guy will see that trap character, Evan can't help but say after thinking about what will happen when Caleb will see Noah. David was wearing sunglasses and had a calm smile, but a haughty look on his face. He was looking like someone who is going for an interview instead of a tournament. Their ranks were still the same. Sophie was B+ rank, and the other 3 were at B rank. As for the last girl who was looking at Evan curiously, she was also B+ rank just like Sophie, which surprised Evan. You guys arrived yesterday? Evan asked. Yeah, Caleb nodded. We were supposed to be here 2 days ago, but our principal was busy with some work, and we got delayed. Excuse me, but can I ask you something? Suddenly the silver-colored hair girl said to Evan out of nowhere. Evan and others looked at her wondering what she wanted to ask. Hello, I am Helia, 5th member of their team, the girl introduced herself. It's nice to meet you, Helia. I am Evan. Evan nodded his head. What do you want to ask? It was the first time he met her, so he was wondering what she wanted to ask. I think you should take a look at a acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. Forgive my rudeness, but can you tell me what is your rank? Helia asked in a stiff voice because she wasn't able to sense his rank. She was already B plus rank, so the only thing that came into her mind was that Evan's rank is higher than her, which didn't make any sense to her considering his age. Hearing Helia, Sophie and others tried to sense Evan's rank, but their face also stiffened when they were not able to sense his rank. Evan was not surprised by her question because he already expected someone to ask this question at some point. I am B plus rank, Evan said as the aura of B plus rank came out of his body. I have a skill that can hide my aura, which is why you can't sense it. Using shadow shrouding wings, Evan was controlling his aura, which is why only the aura of a B plus rank hunter came out of his body. Oh, I see. Helia nodded her head and sighed in relief after hearing Evan. She was afraid that he is an A rank hunter. How how is this possible? Suddenly Helia heard David's trembling voice, and she was stunned when she noticed how Sophie and others were looking at Evan with their mouth wide open. How did you reach B plus rank in such a short period of time? Weren't you just a D plus rank hunter during the monster tide of Naflium City? Sophie asked while trying her best to remain calm. What? Helia was once again shocked when she heard Sophie and looked back at Evan like she was looking at an alien. About that, Evan said with a smile on his face. Sophie and others looked at him eagerly, wanting to know how can someone increase their rank 4 times in less than a month. But the words that came out of his mouth made them want to beat the shit out of him. It's a trade secret. Sophie and the eyes of the others couldn't help but twitch when they saw the smile on Evan's face. They really wanted to punch him, but none of them were fools. They knew that since Evan didn't answer their question, it meant he didn't want to talk about it, so they didn't say anything more about his rank. But suddenly Mark thought about something else, and he looked at Evan weirdly. Can you still summon the monster that was fighting beside you during the monster tide? Mark asked this question because if Evan can summon that monster, then doesn't it mean they will have one extra B plus rank monster to help them during the tournament? Moreover, they all saw Aqua's power during monster tide, and they knew it was definitely more powerful than normal B plus rank monsters. When Mark asked the question, Sophie and the others also looked at him weirdly. Of course, I can summon it, Evan said in a matter-of-fact voice. But when he saw their expressions, he decided not to tell them that it is now an A rank monster instead of a B plus rank. If he tells them Orca is now an A rank monster, who knows what kind of face they will make. As he was talking to them, Evan suddenly felt someone looking at him with a slightly killing intent. He immediately looked in the direction from where he felt the killing intent, but he can't help but frown when he saw 4 people talking to each other. Most importantly, all 4 of them were S rankers. Other than Nathan, the rest of the 3 were the principals of the other 3 academies. Amanda, the principal of Clear Sky Academy, was also there. The principal of the Black Raven Academy was a middle-aged man named John, while the principal of Arcanum Academy was a red-haired woman named Morgana. What's wrong? Caleb asked when he saw Evan was looking somewhere else. Nothing. Evan shook his head when he heard Caleb and stopped looking at them. Was I imagining things? Evan thought to himself because he can't think of any reason for those S-rankers to show killing intent towards him. Chapter 414. After 5 more minutes, all the participants of the tournament arrived in front of the hotel, and were ready to leave. I'll see you guys later, Evan said to Sophie and the others, when he saw that Valerie and the others had already entered the bus. All right. They nodded their heads since they were also ready to leave. Good luck, Evan said and went toward the bus. When he entered the bus, he saw Valerie and others were sitting at the back, even though the front seats were empty. He looked in the middle of the bus and saw Nathan, who was sitting with his eyes closed. After thinking about for a moment, he moved towards him and sat down beside him. We should arrive in 3 hours if nothing goes wrong, Edward said to students who were inside the bus before taking his seat. Evan looked at Nathan from the corner of his eye, before using the telepathy skill of his whispering earring. Old STL-** principal. Do you know anything about Phantom Organization? Evan asked, while trying to stay calm, because of almost calling Nathan an old stalker. Nathan's mouth was twitching furiously because even though Evan stopped mid-away, He could easily understand what Evan was about to call him. Why do you want to know about the Phantom Organization? Evan rejoiced in his heart when Nathan didn't throw him out from the window of the bus. He immediately told him about what happened last night, and his guess about the person who hired the assassin to kill him. To think even Phantom Organization is after you, Nathan said using telepathy, and gave him a weird glance. Did you mess with someone you shouldn't have? Because to hire an assassin from the Phantom Organization, you have to pay a very high price, and must have good connections. Evan really wanted to cry after hearing Nathan. As far as he remembers, he never tried to mess with anyone. Because of his personality, he rarely talks to anyone, so how could he offend someone? You should be careful if you are being targeted by the Phantom Organization, although not many people knew about it. The leader of this organization is actually an S rank hunter, Nathan said in a serious voice, while looking out of the window of the bus. A frown appeared on Evan's face when he heard Nathan because Ralph didn't tell him anything about it. Well, considering he joined them recently and was a low-level assassin, it is not strange that he doesn't know about it, Evan thought, and the frown on his face disappeared. Nathan told him a few more things about the Phantom Organization, and they were similar to what Ralph told him. Actually, you don't have to worry too much about their leader, suddenly Nathan said. Why? Evan asked, looking at him with curious expressions. Do you think an S-rank hunter will care about a B-plus rank hunter like you? Instead of answering, Nathan asked him. A light of understanding flashed in Evan's eyes after hearing Nathan, but he can't help but chuckle inwardly. That guy will definitely care about me once I try the method that Ralph told me. After all, I need to meet their leader if I want to know about the person who issued my assassination mission. Nathan told him a few more things about Phantom Organization that Ralph did not tell him. I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus novel. C inverted question mark M. Should I ask him about the killing intent I felt earlier? Evan thought to himself when he remembered what happened earlier. But after considering it for a moment, he did not ask anything about it. 3.5 hours later they finally reached their destination. The driver parked the bus in a crowded parking lot in front of a massive stadium. The buses of the other 3 academies also arrived at the same time as them. Evan looked at the giant dome in front of him, and saw Central Stadium written at the top of it. Once the bus stopped, Evan and others stood up and came out of it. Nathan talked with Edward and the other teachers of the academy before he disappeared somewhere. Not only Nathan, when Evan looked at buses of other academies, he saw Amanda, Morgana and John also disappeared somewhere. All right, come with me, Edward said to Evan, Valerie and others. Edward brought the students of a straight academy to the stadium to check in. What about the participants of Central Academy? Amy asked Edward as he led them. They should be here already. I think you will meet them soon, Edward replied with a faint smile. Sometime later, they entered the stadium, and Edward brought the participants to another room, while the rest of the teachers went to their seats to wait for the tournament to begin. The stadium was quite large. There were 200,000 seats available in it. The check-in process was quite simple, as all they needed to do was show up. Once they checked in, Edward brought them to another room that was reserved for the students of Astarte City. Now we just have to wait here for some time before the rest of the participants check in, Edward said to them as he sat down on one of the couches. You were talking to the participants of Clear Sky Academy. Do you know them? Valerie asked Evan as they also sat down. They were my teammates during the monster tide of Naflium City, Evan said while nodding his head. Oh, are they strong? Valerie asked in a curious voice. Amy and others also looked at him. Evan thought for a moment and couldn't help but chuckle. Even though they are a bit weird, they are indeed quite strong, he said while nodding his head. Around half an hour later, suddenly a voice sounded inside the room Evan and others were waiting. All participants, please gather in the field. Let's go, Edward said to them after hearing the voice, and they left the room. Chapter 415. A few hours before Evan reached the stadium. Ring *RING*. Sarah looked at her communication crystal and raised an eyebrow in surprise when she saw the name of the person who was calling her. Why is he calling me? Sarah said out loud and accepted the call. You are in the Central City, right? A cold voice sounded from the other end of the crystal. Sarah's face remained the same when she heard the cold voice, because she was aware of the cold personality of the person who called her. Yeah, is there a problem? Sarah answered calmly. What are you planning to do? The person asked once again after hearing Sarah. Why are you asking me all these questions, Nate? Is there a problem? Sarah didn't answer, instead asked while raising an eyebrow. I am also in the central city and I have my own plans for this city. I don't want you to do something that will affect my plans, Nate said in the same cold voice, and for some reason she could feel irritation in his voice. I don't know what you are talking about. You already know I am not here to mess with your plans or anything, I just want to underscore. Yeah. I know you just want to capture some immature brats. But you are causing too much commotion. Before she could finish speaking, Nate interrupted her. Did you forget what happened 2 days ago? You literally announced that we are in the central city and are planning to do something. Hunter Association even get their hands on all the bodies of the hunters who were modified by Amara. Although I know they won't be able to find anything from those bodies, you are still creating troubles for me. Now all the hunters of the city are on high alert and are looking for us. Sarah stayed silent after hearing Nate because she knew she really messed up this time. She never thought that Evan would be able to beat all of those hunters. That bastard really hid his powers very well. Sarah gritted her teeth and said inwardly. Although she didn't see with her own eyes, she was sure that it was Evan who used a skill to summon that black dragon. Just what is wrong with bastard? According to what Paul told her, even he who is an A+ rank hunter felt fear when he saw the power of Evan's sea dragon's raw skill. He was more than 10 kilometers away from the location where Evan used that skill, but he still felt a chilling sensation at that time. After Evan's fight against those 30 hunters, she confirmed that he is an A rank hunter. But even then, his power is off the charts, considering even Paul felt feared because of his skill. Do you want me to stop what I am planning to do? Sarah asked after a moment. Even though she was unwilling, she knew it was her fault this time, and she doesn't want to become an enemy with Nate, who is more powerful than her. Nate stayed silent after hearing Sarah, and didn't say anything for a few seconds. Just when Sarah was wondering why he is not saying anything, she finally heard his voice. All the people you want to capture are participating in the tournament, right? I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. Sarah was confused why Nate asked this question, but she replied positively. Alright then, since they are participating in the tournament, I will help you finish your goal, Nate suddenly said, dumbfounding her. What do you mean by you will help me? She asked in an uncertain voice because she was not sure what he is planning to do. You don't have to worry about anything, just get some of our men stationed at that place. Station some of our people at that place, Sarah muttered in a low voice, not understanding what place Nate was talking about. But suddenly her eyes opened wide like saucers. Don't tell me you are talking about. Yeah, I will use that thing. Although I had my own plans about that thing, I have changed my mind now, Nate said in the same cold voice. Are you sure? I mean, you know you can kill even an S-rank hunter like killing a chicken using that thing. But are you sure you want to use that thing to help me capture some young people? Sarah's mind was in complete chaos, and she can't understand. Nate, a guy who usually does not care about anyone, saying he will help her. Do you think I need this thing to deal with S-rankers? Even without this thing, I am not afraid of anyone, Nate said in a cold voice, but Sarah could feel arrogance behind it. She thought about what happened last time when she and other S-rankers of the Dark Guild challenged him, and she can't help but nod her head in agreement. So, how are you going to use it? Just to remind you, there will be many S-rankers there in the tournament venue, including that old witch Natasha. You don't have to worry about that. I have my own methods to use this thing. But you know, even though this thing is amazing, it also has its own limitations. Although I already know your answer. Just to make sure, tell me the name of the person whom you want me to send to that special place. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment after hearing Nate, but she realized there was nothing to think about, because her target was clear. Send Evan to that special place. As for the others, although it will be troublesome, since you can send only one person to that place, I think I can handle them as long as you send them away from the city. Looks like you really hate him, Nate said when he heard Sarah. Well, it doesn't matter to me. Just make sure you don't do anything stupid. I will take care of the rest. Don't worry, I won't do anything this time. Good, Nate said and ended the call. Sarah looked at the communication crystal in her hand for some time, before a big smile appeared on her face. She put away the crystal in her storage ring and left the room she was in while muttering something that only she could hear. Chapter 416. As Evan came into the field of the stadium, he saw it was fully occupied by the spectators. A acute plus or minus D plus or minus S inverted question mark vel dot C inverted question mark, and there were 5 entrances in the stadium, and from each entrance came the team of the different academies. The tens of thousands of spectators at the stadium began cheering when they saw the participants coming out. Evan already knew about the participants of Arcanum and Clear Sky Academy, so he ignored them and looked at the participants of Central and Ravehurst City. Even though the participants of both of the academies were quite far away from him, he was still able to notice that the highest rank among them was B+ rank. He wasn't surprised by this because it is already considered quite good for people to reach B+ rank at such a young age. There were 3 males and 2 females in the team of Ravenhurst Academy. Meanwhile, in the team of Central Academy, there were 4 males and 1 female. Evan paid special attention to the team of Ravenhurst City because of Sarah. After being attacked by the Dark Guild 2 days ago, he was now sure that Sarah or another member of the Dark Guild is definitely planning to do something during the tournament. After seeing the participants of the 2 academies, Evan looked around and soon noticed some people who were sitting at the top area of the stadium. There were 10 people who were sitting in the top area of the stadium. The reason they caught Evan's attention was because all of them were S-rank hunters. Other than the 4 principals of the academies, Natasha, Sebastian and 4 more S-rankers were present there. It was the first time Evan saw so many S-rankers at the same place, so he was very surprised. Even though most of the S-rankers are very famous and normally people recognize them with a single glance. Evan had always been someone who didn't care about the world, so he didn't know who the other 4 S-rankers were. They might be guild masters of the other 4 platinum rank guilds. Evan thought to himself when he saw 10 S-rank hunters. He paid special attention to Morgana, John and Amanda because of the killing intent he felt earlier. Although Nathan was also present there, Evan could tell that he wasn't the one who showed killing intent towards him. As Edward led them towards the center of the field, Valerie and others noticed a small stage there. But all the participants can't help but raise an eyebrow when they saw the stage. "Don't you think this stage is quite small?" Amy said as they walked. The stage was just 100 square meters in size, which was very small to be considered a fighting stage. Other students were also confused and wondering why the stage was so small. "I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.C inverted question mark M." Once all of the students gathered near the stage, a middle-aged man descended from the sky and hovered in the center of the stadium. Evan looked at the man and just from a single glance, could tell he was an A+ rank hunter. "Welcome. I am Well, you don't need to know my name, since it is not important. I will be the host of this year's tournament. First and foremost, I would like to thank everyone for coming here today." Evan and the others looked at the man speechlessly, wondering who allowed him to host the tournament. "I know everyone is excited about the tournament, and what kind of challenges our participants will face this time, so I won't waste your time and will get directly to the point. As you all might be wondering why there is such a small stage in the middle of the stadium, so let me clear your doubts that this stage is not for fighting. This year's tournament will be completely different from all the previous ones. This year's tournament will have 3 rounds. After saying this, the man looked toward the place where S-rankers were sitting. "To explain the first round of the tournament, I would like to invite the president of the Hunter Association, Miss Natasha, because, without her help, we can't start the first round of the tournament." The crowd began cheering and clapping when they heard Natasha's name. In the eyes of the people who were present, she was the strongest hunter, so it was natural many people admired her. Evan and the other contestants were also surprised to hear the man, and looked in the direction where 10 S-rank hunters were sitting. Natasha still had a wooden cane in her hands, and her white hairs were tied in a bun. Hearing what the host said, a small smile appeared on her wrinkled face as she stood up. Suddenly she disappeared from the place she was standing. Fast Evan can't help but say inwardly when he wasn't even able to follow her movement, before she appeared just above the stage. Natasha looked at the participants with a strange glint in her eyes. She did not say anything after appearing above the stage and waved her hand. The storage ring in her hand shined a little, and a small silver-colored orb which was 10 centimeters in diameter appeared in her hands. Swoosh! Strong energy ripples filled the stadium. Just as Natasha took out the orb, the eyes of Evan and other participants opened wide for a moment when they felt the energy ripples coming out from the orb. An S-rank artifact, Evan thought inwardly, because it was the first time he was seeing an S-rank artifact from such a close distance. Although he saw Sebastian's armor and sword when he met him a few days ago in his office, they were not releasing any ripples, so he was not able to feel their power. But it was just the beginning, as what happened next shocked him even more. Suddenly a silver halo appeared around Natasha, and she dropped the small orb towards the stage. The size of the orb started to expand at a rapid speed, and it became 10 meters wide in diameter just before hitting the stage. Whoosh! A silver light burst forth from the orb that Natasha dropped, and a portal that was similar to the portal of a dungeon appeared before Evan and everyone. Don't tell me this is a portable dungeon. Evan can't help but think when he felt energy fluctuations similar to the dungeon portal coming out from the gate created by the silver orb. Chapter 417. As the portal appeared above the stage, Evan and the others glimpsed mountains, forests, lakes, monsters, and a variety of other things. Is this thing really a portable dungeon? After glimpses of a variety of locations inside the portal, Evan begins to believe that the silver orb is definitely a portable dungeon or something similar to it. The first round of the tournament will take place inside this small world. All the participants stopped looking at the portal when they heard Natasha's elderly voice. This artifact contains a small world of around 2,000 kilometers in diameter. In the center of this world, I placed a green flag, Natasha said, and an image of a large mountain appeared inside the portal. At the top of the mountain, everyone were able to see a green flag. This round is very simple. The person who reaches the center of this small world and gets the green flag first will be the winner of the round. Evan was stunned when he heard that there is a small world in the silver orb with a diameter of 2,000 kilometers. The Earth has a diameter of 12,742 kilometers, so it was understandable that he would be stunned to learn that a small orb could fit a world as large as almost 1/6 of the Earth. But when he heard what Natasha said in the end, he can't help but raise an eyebrow. The person who reaches the center first. Evan thought they will participate as a team, but from what Natasha just said, he could tell that this is not the case. Evan was not the only one who felt confused after hearing her. Other students also realized this fact. Of course, a certain brain-dead woman was still clueless. Can I ask something? The only girl present in the team of Central Academy said while raising her hand like a student. Go ahead, Natasha said with a smile on her face, like she already knew what she will ask. From what you just said, it looks like we will be competing against each other solo. Is this correct? Natasha nodded her head after hearing the girl, and said in a firm voice, that's right, in the first round you won't participate as a team. There will be a total of 3 rounds in the tournament. The second and third rounds will be team rounds, but the first round is a solo challenge. Even though all of them felt confused about why there is a solo round this time, no one said anything. When Natasha saw no one was asking anything else, she continued, all of you will be teleported to different places inside the small world. Although all of you will appear in different locations, the distance between all of you and the flag will remain the same. The first one who reaches there will be the winner. There are many monsters inside the small world. The lowest level of the monster is D+ rank, while the highest level is A+ rank. There is just one A+ rank monster inside the small world, so try your best to avoid it, if you are not confident in fighting against it. If you meet a participant inside the small world, you can team up with him or her if you want, or you can fight against him or her and eliminate them. If you are thinking about teaming up with other participants after meeting them, then remember that, other than the reward you will receive at the end of the tournament, I placed an A rank artifact near the green flag. So if you are thinking about teaming up then. Natasha did not finish her sentence and just smiled at them. Although she did not finish her sentence, all the participants still get her point. I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus novel. C inverted question mark M. Since there is just one A rank artifact, it is obvious that only one person will be able to obtain it. But if they decide to team up with someone after meeting them, they will have to keep an eye on him, so that he won't backstab them in greed of a rank artifact. Even though all the participants understood what she meant, their expressions still brightened knowing they can get an A rank artifact. Evan's eyes also lit up as it is not easy to get an A rank artifact. Besides, he was sure that it won't be difficult for him to win this round. Other than monsters, there are many formations and traps inside this small world, so keep your eyes always open, Natasha said, and looked at the unnamed host of the tournament. Seeing Natasha looking at him, the unnamed host took out some small pale blue crystals from his storage ring and threw them towards the participants. If you encounter a dangerous situation inside the small world and can't escape, then you can come out from the small world by crushing this crystal, Natasha said, after all participants caught the crystal that the unnamed host threw towards them. Don't think that since it is just a tournament you are safe. If you make an irrational decision you can even lose your life, so don't hesitate to crush the crystal if you find yourself in a dangerous situation, Natasha said in a serious voice, and only after seeing everyone nodding their head she smiled. Okay, let's start, she said and waved her hand. The images showing inside the portal disappeared and the portal completely stabilized. Go in, Natasha said after the portal stabilized. Then she suddenly remembered something and said, by the way, you won't be able to fly inside the small world, so don't feel confused. The participants looked at their teammates before they walked towards the portal. Good luck, Evan said to Valerie and his other teammates, before he also went toward the portal. There was no hesitation in his eyes when he stepped inside the portal. In less than a minute, all 25 participants went inside the portal. When all participants went inside, Natasha waved her hand once again, and the portal flashed with a silver light. After confirming everything was fine with the portal, Natasha looked at the unnamed host and went back to her seat. After Natasha went back, no one noticed, but the portal started to release some energy waves that were absorbed by the small stage below the portal. Chapter 418. Upon entering the portal, Evan was teleported at the top of a mountain. Roar! Just as he regained his senses, he didn't even get time to look around before he heard a loud, anger-filled roar from some distance away from him. Time suddenly seemed to slow down in Evan's eyes as he activated temporal velocity without hesitation upon hearing the roar. He turned his head in the direction the sound came from, and saw a lion with bright red fur jumping toward him in slow motion. Evan's eyes were indifferent as he lifted one of his hands. An azure color glow appeared around his fist. Just as the azure light appeared, powerful sonic vibration came out of his fist. Evan punched the head of the lion, who was as slow as a turtle in his eyes, because of temporal velocity skill. The powerful sonic waves invaded the lion's body. When Evan's fist touched its head, the lion's eyes opened wide, and its body started to tremble. The lion opened its mouth to roar out loud, but before it could make any sound, bang! The body of the C-rank lion exploded into a bloody pulp. Blood, organs and brain matter flew everywhere, and the C-rank lion died without being able to understand what just happened. Click! Evan heard a clicking sound and saw a red fire core that dropped after the lion turned into a bloody pulp. He picked the core without much interest and finally looked at his surroundings. Similar scenes occurred at the places where other participants were teleported. Valerie appeared near a lake, and a C-rank mud crocodile tried to attack her, but before it could even reach her, a cold aura came out of her body and turned the crocodile into an ice statue. Jackson found himself in the middle of a forest, and a C-rank forest python tried to attack him, but Jackson easily dodged the python's attack and turned it into a charred corpse. In the stadium, a giant screen was showing what was happening inside the small world. Most of the spectators who came to watch the tournament were normal humans, so when they saw participants killing monsters, they started to cheer out loud. Don't you think the skill that person used is similar to the skill uses by the Sound Wyverns, said Cody, the guild master of Aquarius, the platinum rank guild of Aquaville City. Indeed, Amanda, who was sitting beside him, nodded her head. Sebastian can't help but raise an eyebrow when he saw this because he knew Evan went into Wyvern Nest Dungeon a few days ago. Even though people were surprised when Evans turned the body of the C-rank fire lion into a bloody pulp with a causal punch, they didn't think too much about it, because their attention was attracted by another participant. Standing amid a grassy plain, Noah looked at C-rank bear which was 2 meters tall. The people who saw Noah on the screen can't help but gasp in admiration. "So beautiful," a male sitting in the audience said while looking at Noah with dreamy eyes. Because of Noah's off-the-chart charm, people were thinking that he is a girl. "For some reason, my male instincts are telling me to stay away from this beauty." If your instincts are telling you to stay away from her, then why the fuck you are drooling while looking at her? Suddenly a white aura appeared around Noah, and the C-rank bear's expression changed. Its dark brown eyes gleamed with white light, and the eyes of people watching everything from the stadium opened wide. "I think you should take a look at a acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. After the white halo appeared around Noah, the expressions on Bear's face were very strange. Is it just me, or this bear is looking at that beautiful girl with perverted expressions? A female spectator said after seeing the drooling expressions of the bear. No one said anything after hearing her because they also felt the same. Whoosh. Suddenly the white aura around Noah became even more powerful. Thud. When the white aura around Noah became even more powerful, the eyes of the bear rolled inside its head and it fell down to the ground. The people who saw this were completely speechless. Even though the bear fainted, its expressions were still very strange. Its body was trembling from time to time, and it was clear from the occasional pleasurable sound that came out of its mouth that it must be seeing something that should not be said aloud. The S-rank hunters looked at this scan with blank looks on their faces. Seeing the trembling body of the bear, they wisely decided to not say anything. "The gravity here is 2 times higher than the outside world," Evan muttered to himself after feeling the gravity around him. There were some mountains around him, and in front of him was a small forest-like area. "Even though the gravity is different and I can't fly, I should be able to reach the center of the world in less than 10 hours, if I play my cards right," Evan said to himself and jumped down from the mountain, which was 200 meters high. Using the ice chain skill, he was easily able to control his body in mid-air and landed safely on the ground. Just as his feet touched the ground, his body turned into a blur and he dashed forward. As Evan charged forward, some monsters tried to attack him, but all of them were killed by wind blades. Evan continues to move forward while killing monsters and collecting their cores. In just 1 hour, he crossed around 100 kilometers of distance. During this time, he faced many monsters ranging from D+ rank to C+ rank. "It is a pity I can't absorb their bodies using energy devouring since many people are watching," Evan muttered under his breath as he picked up a C+ rank core. Suddenly he felt something and his eyes flashed. He activated Hawk's Eye skill and looked in front of him. Evan's eyes opened wide when a few kilometers away from him, he saw a 1 meter tall green-colored monster with strange engravings on its body. The engravings were looking like runes and were giving a strange feeling. "A goblin king," Evan muttered in a shocked voice. But the shocked look on his face soon disappeared, and a wide smile appeared on his face. "I can finally make shadow undead of a goblin king," Evan thought, and was about to rush towards the goblin king when his eyes trembled. From the corner of his eyes, he saw a male rushing towards the goblin king. The male's body was surrounded by fire, and Evan was sure that the body of the goblin king will turn into ash if that guy successfully reached near it. Chapter 419. The person who was rushing towards the goblin king was Felix, one of the members of the Central Academy team. He was moving towards the center of the small world when he saw the goblin king who was standing in his way. Even though goblin kings are more powerful than normal goblins, he didn't care too much about it, because even goblin kings are bound by racial limit and can't go beyond D+ rank. He was a B+ rank hunter, so he just covered his body in fire, because he was sure that the goblin king would not be able to endure the heat of his fire and will turn into dust when he will reach near it. When the goblin king saw Felix rushing towards it, a panicked look appeared on its green face. The engravings on its body flashed, and it threw some black darts towards Felix in an attempt to stop him. The black darts were releasing a faint purple smoke, and Felix even felt a small amount of threat from them. "The alchemy of goblin kings is truly terrifying," Felix can't help but mutter when he felt a slight threat from the incoming darts. The darts were made of the bone of a monster, but what made them dangerous was the poison that the goblin king applied to them. Since goblin kings are very good in alchemy, Felix immediately understood who made the poison that was covering the darts. "To think it can make a poison that can present a slight threat to me. It was the first time he faced a Goblin King, so although he knew Goblin Kings are different from normal goblins, he never thought that despite being a D+ rank, it would be able to make a poison that can present a threat to even a B+ rank hunter. It's good they can't evolve after reaching D+ rank, or it would have been a pain in the ass to fight against them, Felix thought while shaking his head. All darts turned into dust when they came near him because of the high temperature around him. Just when the Goblin King thought it is done for, something unexpected happened. Boom. Felix, who was rushing towards it, was suddenly sent flying backwards like a broken kite, and another human who was covered in green light appeared before it. **T. I couldn't control my strength because of my high speed, Evan facepalmed when he saw he accidentally sent Felix flying away. He was more than 10 kilometers away from the Goblin King. When he noticed Felix, he knew that if Felix turned the Goblin King into ashes, he wouldn't be able to get its shadow undead. Just thinking that he might lose the chance of getting the Goblin King's shadow undead, his mind moved before his body, and he activated flickering steps, temporal velocity and wind manipulation to their maximum limit possible, and arrived before the Goblin King in an instant. It was the first time he used all of the skills that improves his agility greatly, so he wasn't able to control his body properly, and sent Felix flying backwards like a broken kite. Holy, what kind of ghost agility is this? Someone in the audience exclaimed when Evan covered around 10 kilometers of distance in just 2 or 3 seconds. The S-rank hunters were also perplexed, not understanding how can a B+ rank hunter could move like this. That guy is not dead, right? John, the principal of Black Raven Academy, asked with his mouth slightly open. Don't worry, he is still alive, Natasha said, but her eyes were also twitching after seeing Felix's condition. Why did he save that Goblin King? A person sitting in the audience asked in a doubtful voice. Maybe because that goblin looks like a cute child, the person sitting beside him answered. Hearing what the person said, people looked at the green hideous face of the Goblin King. Its mouth was filled with broken yellow teeth, and its nose was slightly longer than a human's. All of them looked at the person who called the Goblin King cute and backed away from him. Even though Evan felt some guilt because of almost killing Felix, he still did not forget about the Goblin King. I think you should take a look at a acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel. C inverted question mark M. He turned around only to see the Goblin King looking at him with a grateful look on its face for saving it. Evan nodded his head at the Goblin King as a sign of goodwill, and then chopped down at its neck. Crack! The sound of bone cracking rang out, and the Goblin King died with a grateful look still plastered on its face. A acute plus or minus D plus or minus S, inverted question mark vel. C inverted question mark M, audience. For some reason, all of them felt pity for the poor goblin. Even high-ranking hunters looked at Evan with weird faces, wondering if he has a strange fetish of playing with the goblin's feelings. Evan did not care what the people were thinking about him, and carefully put away the Goblin King's body into his storage ring. After putting away the body, he walked toward Felix, who was lying unconscious 30 meters away from him. Evan scratched the back of his head, wondering what should he do with him. He was afraid that if he leaves Felix just like this, he will be killed by the monsters since he is unconscious. Suddenly Evan's eyes lit up. He took off Felix's storage ring, and easily linked it with himself after breaking Felix's connection. He took out the crystal that Natasha gave them from Felix's storage ring, and put the ring back on Felix's finger. Don't need to thank me, I know I am a good person, Evan muttered to himself and put the crystal in Felix's hand. He helped him crush the crystal and backed away. Just as he crushed the crystal, a faint silver light covered Felix's body, and he disappeared from there. Evan also did not stop there any longer and charged forward once again. But his charge came to an abrupt stop just after 5 minutes, when a small village appeared in front of him. The village was filled with goblins, and there were at least 400 of them. Evan would have ignored the village, since he wanted to reach the center of the small world as soon as possible. But in the middle of the village, there was a small platform that caught his eye. The platform was covered in golden light and was quite eye-catching. What is that thing, Natasha? Nathan asked when he saw the golden platform. Other than the reward that I placed near the flag, there are many other good things that they can get in this small world, Natasha said with a smile on her face. Of course, it won't be easy for them to get these things, since there are many traps around them. After saying that, Natasha looked at the screen and shook her head. The item placed on the golden platform is the most difficult item to obtain in this small world. I hope this kid will avoid this item, or I am afraid that he will be forced to use the crystal to escape from there. When people heard Natasha, all of them looked at the screen with confused faces. Although the village was filled with goblins, their rank was very low to present any threat to Evan. Evan was not sure what was the golden platform, but just by looking at it, he could tell that it was something good. So after thinking about it for a moment, he charged toward the village. Evan was not afraid of hundreds of goblins, since they were too weak in his eyes. But just as Evan set foot inside the goblin village, his face changed. Suddenly a huge amount of mana came out of the ground, and a formation that was covering the entire village lit up. Chapter 420. Just as Evan stepped foot inside the goblin village, a giant formation glowed under his feet. Seeing the formation, Evan immediately understood that it is one of the traps that Natasha told them about. He was about to move back when suddenly a giant dome-shaped barrier rose from the ground and enclosed the whole goblin village. At the same time, Evan felt some restrictions being placed on his body. The mana flow inside his body started to slow down, and it became hard for him to control it. His physical power also decreased by a huge margin, and he felt like he became a D-rank hunter again. Evan was surprised by the sudden turn of events, but he didn't panic because he knew it was the work of the formation that was glowing under his feet. He tried to force his mana a bit and noticed even though it was hard to control the mana of his prime core, it was different for his monarch core. I am feeling like if I try to push my monarch core a bit, I will be able to break free from the restrictions of this formation. Evan thought to himself, but he didn't break free. If he breaks free from the formation, the other people watching him from the outside will definitely notice this. Although I am not afraid of them, it is better to hide the fact that I can break free from the restriction of formation, since the people of the Dark Guild are definitely watching this. Kekiki, kekekek, kekiki. Suddenly Evan started to hear the laughter of goblins, and saw hundreds of them were rushing towards him with bone sticks in their hands. A cruel smile was plastered on their faces, and they were looking at him with hungry eyes. The rank of goblins who were coming towards him was ranging from E+ to D+ rank. If it was anyone else, they would have already used the crystal to escape from here. After all, only an idiot will fight against so many goblins in an enclosed space, with their rank restricted. Evan also had a frown on his face when he saw the goblins charging towards him. He was not afraid of facing so many of them. The problem was something else. There are too many goblins. It would take me quite some time to kill all of them. Evan muttered inwardly because he doesn't want to waste his time here. Looks like it's time to use that thing. Suddenly Evan's lips arched upward and an excited smile appeared on his face. The storage ring on his hand glowed slightly, and a heavy-looking long obsidian-colored rifle appeared in his hands. The rifle was obviously Carnage that he got from the assassin of the Phantom organization. Carnage, A+ rank. Carnage is a sinister work of art. Its obsidian frame enhanced with star ore. The sole purpose to create Carnage was to kill its target. While wielding Carnage, you can use focus, mana strengthening, Zephyr precision, and phantom shot skills. The wielder of Carnage can switch between rapid fire and single shot mode at will. The power of shots fired from Carnage depends on the materials used in creating the bullets. If the material of the bullet is not good, then the power of the shots will be reduced greatly. Author's note: I made a mistake and forget to mention the rapid and single shot mode of Carnage in chapter 404. I have corrected it. Sorry for the inconvenience. Time to play shooting game, Evan shouted in an excited voice, and used the rapid fire mode of the rifle. The rifle was loaded with reinforced steel bullets that he purchased yesterday. The bullets were not very powerful, and it is hard to kill even D-rank monsters using them. But because of Carnage's mana strengthening skill, Evan was able to increase the power of bullets to some degree. I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. Kikakek. Soon the goblins were just 100 meters away from him. Evan aimed Carnage towards them, and his eyes flashed with mockery when he saw the hungry eyes of the goblins. Let's see if you can laugh after this. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of gunshots echoed throughout the goblin forest, and white flashes of light shot forward from the muzzle of Carnage. Evan used his mana to strengthen the bullets, so the power of reinforced steel bullets was nothing to scoff at. The bullets easily penetrated the goblins' skins and dug deeper into their bodies. Fountains of green blood erupted as the mad laughter of goblins turned into pain-filled screams. When bullets hit the head of E+ rank goblins, they were not able to handle the impact, and their head exploded like watermelon. Only D and D+ rank goblins were able to survive a few rounds of bullets, but soon they also started to die. Evan had 5,000 bullets, so he was not afraid of running out of ammunition. Ha ha ha. Why are you not laughing now, you ugly monsters? Evan laughed like a madman as he slaughtered goblins without any problem. The ground was dyed green in goblin blood, and a strong smell of iron filled the entire goblin village. In just 1 minute, Evan killed more than 200 goblins who were rushing toward him. Those who were at the back started to run away after they saw what happened to the goblins in front. Unfortunately for them, the barrier that was supposed to trap their enemy was now trapping them. Even though they wanted to run away, they can't break the barrier that was covering them. When Evan saw the goblins were backing away, he sneered and jumped up at the small mountain of goblin corpses. Bang, 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 bang. Like he was shooting paper dolls, the goblins collapsed one after another. In just 2 minutes after stepping inside the goblin village, Evan killed all the goblins. There was so much blood in the area that a faint green veil covered the village. When Evan killed the last goblin, the formation covering the village automatically disappeared. Acute plus or minus D plus or minus S inverted question mark val dot C inverted question mark M. All restrictions placed on Evan's body were lifted when the formation disappeared. Evan put away carnage and nodded his head in satisfaction. He looked at the platform in the middle of the village, and saw the golden light around it was also disappearing. Let's see what is this thing, Evan said to himself and walked toward the platform. Chapter 421. When people saw the glowing formation and the nameless host explained its function, all of them couldn't help but shake their heads. Facing hundreds of goblins in an enclosed space while being restricted by the formation. It's not enough among the goblins. There are many D+ rank who are 1 rank above you. It was nothing but suicide. That's what I call karma. He played with the feelings of that cute little goblin, and now he is paying the price. The person who called Goblin King a cute child said out loud. Although people didn't agree on the part where he called the goblin cute, they also felt like he was paying the price for playing with the goblin's feelings. So that's how it is. No wonder you said he would be forced to exit using crystal if he went inside the village, Morgana said with an understanding look on her face. No matter how many he kills, he will soon be overwhelmed by their numbers, and since he is restricted to D rank, he will run out of mana. Just after using some of his skills, John said. Even if he doesn't use skills and preserve his mana, he will run out of stamina if he tries to fight against so many goblins, and it will be fatal for him, because he won't be able to react properly after running out of stamina. And I don't think I need to say what will happen if he doesn't react in time, while being surrounded by so many goblins. Quote, Natasha said and looked at the screen with an amused smile on her face. Nathan looked at everything without any change in his expression. Meanwhile, Sebastian was feeling something was not right when he saw Evan's expressions. Why do I feel like this guy is smiling in excitement after seeing so many goblins, said Chers, Guild Master of Enigma, the Platinum rank guild of Ravenhurst City. They were confused after hearing Chers, but when they looked at Evan's expression, all of them were taken back. Just as Chers said, they could see that instead of showing fear or anything, an excited smile was plastered on Evan's face. What is this guy thinking? Amanda stopped speaking midway when suddenly a long obsidian color rifle appeared in Evan's hand. Let's see if you can laugh after this. They all heard Evan muttering to himself and bang, 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 bang. The only thing that could be heard inside the stadium was the sound of firing gunshots. People watched as goblins collapsed one after another, while the heads of many goblins exploded like watermelons. The village was bathed in green blood, and people felt like they were watching a gangster movie instead of a tournament. This underscored the man who was calling goblins cute was lost for words. In just 2 minutes all the goblins were killed, and the formation glowing inside the village disappeared. Even the mouth of some of the S-rank hunters was slightly open. After a few seconds, everyone heard a low chuckle, and Nathan said while still looking at the screen, "Looks like the formation was not good enough, Natasha." Natasha felt her wrinkled face heating up because of embarrassment. She looked at Evan, who was nodding his head in satisfaction, and her eyes twitched from where he got that damn rifle. Even though artifact rifles are not rare, they are not common either. Very few people have artifact rifles, and the rifle that Evan used was even rare. They didn't see its details, but all of them knew that the rank of rifle Evan used was pretty high. While the people were cheering after seeing the movie-like scene, some hunters who were present in the audience looked at the rifle in Evan's hand intently. Their eyes were cold, and it was looking like they were barely holding back their killing intent. Evan stopped in front of the small platform. The golden aura around it was slowly disappearing. I am sure now Phantom Organization knew what happened to the assassin they sent after me. Evan smirked inwardly while waiting for the golden aura around the small platform to disappear. When the golden aura around the platform disappeared, Evan saw a small fruit lying on it. The fruit was blood red in color, and was giving an ominous feeling. Evan frowned when he felt the strange aura around the fruit. I think you should take a look at a acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. Just to be safe, he used wind manipulation to pick up the fruit, and looked at its details. While keeping his guard up, he touched the fruit using one of his fingers, and was glad when nothing happened. Just as he touched the fruit, its details appeared before him. This underscore Evan's eyes opened wide when he read the details of the fruit, and he immediately grabbed it, like he was afraid someone would steal it. He put away the fruit in his storage ring and started to laugh like a madman. What is that fruit, Natasha? Cody asked when he saw Evan laughing happily after getting the fruit. I don't know, but I don't think it is anything amazing, Natasha said in a calm voice. But she was gritting her teeth inwardly. Damn, I put it there just for show. I never thought someone would be able to take it away. That fruit was something that she found when she went deep into the wilderness. She put it there so that she could brag about it when someone failed to get it. After bragging about it, she would have exchanged it for a precious artifact. Unfortunately, Evan did not fail and successfully took the fruit, so all she could say was that she didn't know what is that fruit. Evan did not stop there after putting away the fruit and charged towards the center of the small world once again. While moving, many monsters tried to attack him, but he easily killed all of them. After 1 hour, Evan started to feel tired because he was running non-stop and was fighting monsters. Moreover, he noticed that the gravity was increasing even more as he moved deeper. Looks like it is time to use that move. Evan stopped running and took some deep breaths. His body was covered in sweat, and he panting heavily. I never thought I would be forced to use my strongest skill here, Evan said out loud, so that people who were watching could hear him. A look of interest appeared on the people's faces when they heard Evan. Evan spread both of his arms and looked towards the sky. It's time to use the half-backed chants that I read in those novels, Evan thought to himself as his eyes turned serious. Bearer of elements, born of dreams and lore, stride from the veil, as in days of yore. From the depths where darkness lies, where light fades and terror flies, I call upon a creature unknown. O creature of mystical might, answer my call and emerge into the light. People watched with wide eyes as Evan's face turned pale after he finished his bullshit chant. His body staggered backwards, and he fell down to the ground. But they completely ignored him because their eyes were fixed on the ground where Evan's shadow expanded and was looking like a gate of abyss. Whoosh! Suddenly a black figure leapt out from Evan's shadow and roar! A loud roar reverted in the surroundings, scaring all the monsters who were present near him. Chapter 422. Noah kept on jumping from one tree to another, while moving forward in a dense forest, showing his fast agility. His body was still covered with a dreamy white aura, and he was moving towards the center of the small world without any problems. Some of the monsters tried to stop him, but they all lost their composure as soon as they came near him, and were killed by the spiky vines that were moving around him like guardians. Morgana, what's wrong with this student? Why do all the monsters start behaving oddly when they come near him? Cody asked, looking at the red-haired woman who was the principal of Arcanum Academy. Morgana smiled wryly hearing Cody and shook her head. Honestly, I am also not sure. But I do know he has a unique physique that is a little strange. Maybe the strange behavior of those monsters is related to his physique. A unique physique. Those who were not aware of Noah's physique were surprised. What is the name of his physique? Amanda asked in a curious voice. Morgana's mouth twitched when she heard Amanda's question, but she still answered her, dream beauty physique. Hack Amanda made a strange sound that she herself didn't understand. Hearing the strange sound, the twitching speed of Morgana's mouth intensified. Seeing Morgana's twitching mouth, Amanda said awkwardly, the name of the physique is quite unique. Noah continued to move towards the center of the small world. 5 minutes later, he finally saw the end of the forest and came out of it. Just as Noah came out of the forest, he felt the gravity around him increased even more, and his body bent forward because of sudden change. Noah slowly adjusted his body to new gravity and returned back to a normal position. After adjusting his body, when he looked ahead, he saw a volcanic area. The ground was light red in color, and there were many volcanoes in sight. Although all the volcanoes were looking calm, Noah could feel bubbling magma inside them. It will be difficult, Noah thought to himself after seeing the area. The temperature here was higher than in the jungle, and traversing this area would be much more difficult than in the jungle due to the increase in gravity. Well, it's not like I want to win this round, Noah whispered in a very low voice and dashed forward once again. While moving forward, Noah was looking around carefully. Since the area changed, he knew the difficulty also increased greatly. The highest rank monster that he faced till now was C rank, but now he was Cretan that the rank of the monsters would definitely increase. Suddenly Noah noticed a male participant who was moving towards the center of the small world as well. The participant was around 2 kilometers away, and just like him, he was also looking around carefully. So when Noah noticed him, he noticed him as well. A strange glint shined in man's eyes when he saw Noah, and he suddenly rushed towards him. Noah was taken aback when he saw the man coming towards him, and raised his guard to maximum level. The man who was coming towards him was one of the participants from Black Raven Academy, and was at B+ rank. Noah was still covered in a white dreamy aura, but when the man was just 100 meters away from him, Noah's eyes opened wide when the white aura around him suddenly disappeared. What? Noah was shocked when the white aura around him disappeared, but he didn't get much time to understand what happened, because the man running towards him pointed his right palm in his direction and shot a cloud of purple smoke towards him. I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. Noah felt all the hairs on his body stand up, and he quickly backed away while waving his hand. Absorption vines, Noah shouted, and some vines came out of the ground. The vines glowed with black light, and when the cloud of purple smoke came near them, all the smoke was absorbed by them. Bastard, why are you attacking me? Noah shouted in anger-filled voice, without knowing that the world of thousands of males who were watching him shattered after hearing his voice. The male, whose name was Dennis, didn't answer and tried to close the distance between them. Noah's expression turned cold when he saw Dennis had no intentions of stopping. Even though he was confused about why the white aura around him disappeared, he was not afraid of him. Reverse release, Noah said in a cold voice, and the black vines that absorbed the smoke cloud released it in Dennis's direction. Dennis's expression changed when he saw this, and he tried to step aside. Root entanglement, Noah said, and suddenly some roots came out of the ground, stopping Dennis from moving away. Damn, Dennis cursed, and his feet glowed with a greenish light. Corrosive touch. The roots stopping Dennis started to corrode, and in less than 1 second they turned into dust. Just before the cloud of poison released by absorption vines hit him, he jumped sideways and barely dodged the attack. But to his demise, Noah had no intention of letting him. Forest sanctuary. Suddenly hundreds of vines rose from the ground and covered both of them into an oval-shaped barrier. That guy chose the wrong person to fight, Morgana said while shaking her head when she saw what was happening. I don't understand why he started the fight in the first place, John said with a confused look on his face. Can we see what is happening inside, Natasha? Amanda asked because they were not able to see what was happening inside the Forest of Sanctuary. Sorry, we can't. Natasha shook her head, and I don't think there is anything to see. After all, from the earlier fight, it is clear that guy can't fight against Noah. Other people also nodded their heads after hearing Natasha, and did not ask anything else. But unknown to all of them, a completely different thing was happening inside the Forest Sanctuary. Noah was looking at Dennis with an indifferent expression on his face. There was not even a trace of anger on his face that he was showing earlier. Let's start. We have to finish this formation in 3 minutes, Noah said in an indifferent voice, and waved his hand. Many different kinds of materials came out of his storage ring, and both of them started to draw a formation on the ground using the materials that Noah took out. Chapter 423. I never thought I would be forced to use my strongest skill here. Many people's ears perked up when they heard Evan. Be it was hunters or the normal audience, everyone looked at him wondering what is his strongest skill. They already know he is more powerful than other hunters, after what happened to Felix. In their eyes, he was also a B+ rank hunter just like Felix, but he was able to knock him out without any effort. They thought he already used his strongest skill when he covered the distance of around 10 kilometers in just 2 or 3 seconds. But now he is saying that was not his strongest skill. Bearer of elements, born of dreams and lore, stride from the veil, as in days of yore. This underscore, the minds of all the hunters went blank for a moment when they saw Evan suddenly start chanting something. Normal people were fine because they didn't know much about skills and other things. But all the hunters were looking at Evan with dead eyes. Nathan, I must say this student of your academy is quite unique, Morgana said while looking at the screen with an amused look on her face. The corner of Nathan's mouth trembled like crazy as he looked at Evan with dead eyes. Sebastian also felt embarrassed and rejoiced in his heart that no one knew he is acquaintance of Evan. The reason all the hunters were looking at Evan with dead eyes was because they all knew that if anyone wanted to use their skill, all they had to do was think about it and use their mana. There is no need to say a bullshit chant like how Evan was saying. Well, since he is using his strongest skill, he needs to put on a show, John said while shrugging his shoulder. Answer my call and emerge into the light. At this moment Evan finally finished his chant and fell down, while panting heavily like he used all of his mana. Roar. The next second a loud roar reverted inside the stadium, and everyone saw a black wolf with purple eyes come out of Evan's shadow. A summoning skill. Huh? Cody said while raising an eyebrow, because summoning skills are quite rare. But soon his expressions changed and slowly his eyes opened wide. What the fuck is wrong with this skill? Cody can't help but say out loud with his eyes wide open. It was not only Cody. Most of the people's eyes were wide open. A+ rank. He is just B+ rank, but he summoned an A+ rank monster. The monster Evan summoned was Albellu. At first no one thought anything about it after seeing it, but when they noticed it was actually an A+ rank monster, all of them were lost for words. The difference between B+ and A+ rank is very big. An A+ rank hunter can easily kill tens of B+ rank hunters without any problem. So seeing a B+ rank hunter summoning an A+ rank monster was something that no one expected. Look at his pale face. From the looks of it, I think he used almost all of his mana to summon this monster. I refuse to believe that this monster will be able to stay here for a long time. At most, I think it would be able to stay here for 30 minutes before it will disappear. Quote, Amanda said while looking at Evan, who was sitting on the ground with a pale face. I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel. C inverted question mark M. Looking at his condition, all the people felt like he would pass out at any moment because of how exhausted he was looking. Looks like the cost of using this skill is too high. In his current condition, even a C rank monster would be able to kill him, Morgana said after a moment. It's only natural that he had to pay a heavy price. Considering that he summoned an A+ rank monster, Nathan said, looking at the black wolf thoughtfully. If Evan could hear them, he would surely give them a big thumbs up. Evan was naturally acting all this time. His mana reserve was still full, and he did all of this to give false information to his enemy. When the first round started, Evan was thinking about summoning Eclipse, since it is his fastest A-rank shadow undead. But after seeing the reward that he got from the goblin village, Evan changed his mind. Now he wanted to collect as many rewards as possible that he could get from his small world, and to do that he needed his fastest shadow undead. Although he knew it would expose one of his cards that he could summon an A+ rank monster, Evan did not care too much about it. After all, it is not like he can summon just one monster. He stood up with difficulty, still pretending like he was very tired, and sat down on Albellu's back. After sitting down instead of going towards the center of the small world, Evan commands Albellu to move in a different direction. Lightning crackled around Albellu, and it shot forward at lightning speed. People who were watching Evan were confused when they saw him moving in a different direction. Just looking at Albelu's speed, they could tell that if Evan moved towards the center of the small world using it, he would be able to reach there in less than 30 minutes. Many monsters came into Albelu's way, but all of them were too weak to stop it. The bodies of all the monsters who tried to stop Albelu exploded into blood mist after being struck by destructive lightning. Evan even saw some of the participants while moving, but he did not do anything to them. With Albelu's high agility, it was not hard for Evan to search for other places like Goblin Village, and just after 10 minutes he found one more golden platform in the middle of a grassy plain. However, he was surprised when he saw this golden platform, because the formation protecting this platform was already activated, and a male participant was standing in the middle of it. But after seeing the participant, a confused expression appeared on Evan's face. Why is he standing there like a statue? Evan muttered when he saw the male whose name was Sean not moving at all, and was standing in the same place with an unfocused look. Evan narrowed his eyes after seeing this and looked at the formation carefully. He wasn't able to understand what was the use of this formation, so he used his spiritual senses to check if he could find anything. And to his surprise, just as he used his spiritual senses to scan the formation, he felt strange energy waves coming out from the formation. I see, so that is what's going on, Evan said and stopped using his spiritual sense. Let's go, Albelu. This weak formation can't stop us, he said, using shadow senses, and Albelu charged toward the golden platform without any hesitation. Chapter 424. Let's go, Evan said to Albelu, who charged towards the golden platform without hesitation. I doubt this illusion formation will be able to affect me, Evan thought to himself as Albelu stepped inside the area covered by the formation. At first, Evan didn't understand what kind of formation it was, but when he used his spiritual senses, he felt some energy waves coming out of the formation that were trying to affect his mind and soul. After feeling those energy waves and seeing Sean's unmoving body, Evan easily understood that it was an illusion formation, and after considering his current spiritual power that is already comparable to an S-rank hunter, Evan refused to believe that this formation could affect him. There is no way they will create formations that can affect even S-rank hunters when the participants are just B+ rank hunters, Evan thought as Albelu finally stepped inside the formation. Just as Albelu stepped inside the formation, Evan felt some strange energy waves trying to affect his mind and soul. The energy waves were not harmful, but they were trying to pull him inside an illusion. Evan just smirked inwardly when he felt this, and used his spiritual power to counter the energy waves. As expected, Evan thought when he was easily able to stop the energy waves of the formation. A acute plus or minus D plus or minus S inverted question mark vel dot C inverted question mark M. Albelu stopped for a moment after stepping inside the formation, but it wasn't an A+ rank monster for nothing. In just 3 seconds it was also able to counter the energy waves of the formation, and once again moved towards the platform. Evan ignored Sean, who was still inside the illusion, and arrived in front of the golden platform. Just as he stopped in front of the platform, the golden glow around it started to disappear. Evan smiled a little when he saw how easily he was able to get this reward. As the glow around the platform started to disappear, the illusion formation covering the area started to fade away as well. In just a few seconds, both the formation and the golden glow around the platform disappeared. Evan didn't care about the formation because his eyes were fixed on the thing that was placed on the platform. A storage ring. Evan raised an eyebrow when he saw the storage ring. He moved forward and picked up the ring. What? But before Evan could see what was inside the ring, he heard a terrified scream from behind him. He quickly turned around wondering what happened, but his mouth couldn't help but twitch when he saw Sean looking at Albelu with a pale face, like he had seen a ghost. Don't worry at Evan wanted to tell him that Albelu wouldn't attack him, but his words struck inside his mouth when Sean suddenly took out a pale blue crystal and crushed it. Soon his body was covered in silver light, and he disappeared from there. Evan. This stupid kid, Morgana said with a speechless look on her face when she saw what happened. The mouth of other people was also twitching. I think you should take a look at A acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel. C inverted question mark M. By the way, What is the rank of that illusion formation, Natasha? Cody asked, still looking at the screen. A rank, Natasha said with a small frown on her face. I can understand why the formation didn't affect that wolf monster, but what about him? Since he was able to ignore the effect of the formation, does that mean his spiritual power is higher than A rank hunters, even though he is at B+ rank? Amanda said with a shocked look on her face. It was natural that they were shocked because increasing spiritual power is even harder than increasing the rank of the core. There are very few things that can increase a person's spiritual power. And it was the first time they saw something like this, where a B+ rank hunter's spiritual power is higher than even A rank hunters. Normally, a hunter's spiritual power increases along with the rank of their core, so it is almost impossible for a person's spiritual power to surpass the rank of their core. This was also the reason why Evan was shocked when he saw Hana for the first time. I think his spiritual power is currently connected with the monster he summoned. I don't think it is possible for him to have spiritual power higher than A rank hunters. While everyone was thinking, Nathan suddenly said, connected. When they heard what Nathan said, their eyes flashed. Even though they were not certain, all of them felt it should be the case. Evan didn't know what people were talking about, nor did he care. After Sean disappeared, he just shook his head and muttered something under his breath. He linked the storage ring with himself and looked inside it. But after seeing what was inside the ring, he can't help but click his tongue. I thought I would get something great like the fruit I got earlier, Evan thought as he closed his eyes for a moment. Inside the ring, he saw 10 B+ rank cores and some materials that could be used to make artifacts. But he was not happy with them. In normal times he would have been quite happy after getting 10 B+ rank cores without any effort. But when he compared them to the fruit he got earlier, they were nothing but trash. Forget it. Let's continue our search. Albelu. Evan sat down on Albelu's back once again. And just like before, it shot forward like a bullet covered in purple lightning. People who were watching from the outside were shocked when they finally realized what Evan was doing. Don't tell me instead of going straight to the center of the small world, he is thinking about collecting all the rewards, Amanda said when she saw what Evan was doing. Natasha's heart shook when she heard Amanda because there was one more thing inside the small world. That was quite precious to her. At the beginning of the round, she was sure that no one would be able to get that thing, but after seeing Evan's abnormal power, she was not sure anymore. It should be fine once that wolf disappears. He won't be able to focus on collecting other things. Natasha comforted herself, but the face of every hunter changed when even after 2 hours the wolf showed no sign of disappearing. Because of Albelu's high speed, Evan already collected most of the things from the small world during those 2 hours. For God's sake, just go to the center of the world and end this round. Already Natasha was on the verge of tears after seeing how like a scoundrel Evan was taking everything from her small world. Chapter 425. 2 hours before Evan summoned Albelu. Inside Forest Sanctuary, Dennis looked at Noah, who was scanning the formation on the ground with a serious look on his face. After a few seconds, when he was sure that there was no problem with the formation, Noah walked towards the middle of the formation and took out a silver color core from his storage ring. The core was A+ rank and was releasing space energy. This core can be used to create a powerful space-type artifact, but Noah shook his head and sighed inwardly. He looked at a round hole in the middle of the formation that was looking like a socket and placed the silver core inside it. Just as he placed the core inside the socket, the formation lit up, but as soon as the formation lit up, some energy waves came out of the ground and the formation stopped glowing. The small formation that Noah and Dennis created slowly started to disappear, and soon ground returned to normal. The core and the socket of the formation disappeared like it was swallowed by the ground. All right. Our work is done. Noah looked at Dennis, who nodded his head. Seeing him nodding his head, Noah waved his hand and some sharp vines came out of the ground, piercing Dennis's shoulders. Dennis didn't even flinch when his shoulders were pierced, and looked at the sharp vines without any change in his expression. Be ready. The fun will start as soon as this round will end, Noah said to Dennis, and the vines that pierced his shoulders disappeared. Soon the oval-shaped vine barrier that was covering them also disappeared, and the people present in the stadium were able to see them. When people were finally able to see them, Dennis was on his knees, and his face was pale. Noah, on the other hand, was standing some distance away from him. No one was surprised when they saw this because they already expected that Noah would beat Dennis. Dennis glared at Noah hatefully before he took out the blue crystal and crushed it. Soon his body was covered in silver light, and he disappeared from there. Noah glanced at the place where the formation disappeared a moment ago, before he dashed towards the center of the small world again. The people present in the audience were cheering out loud as they watched participants move forward while fighting against the monsters. Hunters of the different guilds were talking about participants to see if there was anyone they wanted to recruit. The S-rank hunters who were present in the arena calmly looked at the screen, occasionally giving their remarks about participants. The portal of the small world was still hovering above the small stage. The portal was still releasing the same energy waves towards the small stage that it was releasing in the beginning. The fluctuations released by the energy waves were so low that even the S-rank hunters present in the arena were not able to feel them. I think you should take a look at a acute plus or minus D plus or minus snovel.c inverted question mark M. At this moment, the power of the fluctuations coming out of the portal increased for a second. Even though it was only for a second before everything returned to normal, all the S-rank hunters present in the arena were able to feel them. What were those energy fluctuations? Nathan said while raising an eyebrow. He stopped looking at the screen and was now looking at the portal of the small world. Other S-rankers also looked at the portal with raised eyebrows, wondering what just happened. Don't worry, it's not a big deal. Just like how a dungeon portal releases energy fluctuations from time to time, this artifact is the same, Natasha said while waving her hand when she saw how they were looking at the portal. Oh, no one found anything wrong with what Natasha just said and nodded their head in understanding. They stopped looking at the portal and once again focused on the screen present in the stadium. Natasha glanced at the S-rank hunters from the corner of her eyes before looking back at the screen. While they all were looking at the participants, the energy waves that calmed down traveled inside the small platform located below the portal. Through the small platform, the energy waves traveled inside the ground and started to cover the entire field of the stadium. As the energy waves traveled underground, a formation began to take form. The formation was around 30 meters deep within the ground, and no one was able to feel it when it began to take shape. The formation was covering the entire field of the stadium, and it was similar to the formation that Noah and Dennis made inside the small world. Every time a participant travels a distance of 100 kilometers towards the center of the small world, the world's gravity changes, and they are forced to use their mana to move forward. Along with gravity, the rank of the monsters was also increasing as the participants moved towards the center of the small world. It has been around 5 hours since the first round started, and during these 5 hours, 6 participants were sent out of the small world. Currently, there were 19 participants who were still moving towards the center of the small world. Most of the participants were halfway towards the center, but their speed reduced greatly after covering half of the distance because of the increase in gravity. Crackle! While most of the participants were moving towards the center, in the outer area of the small world, a storm of lightning was destroying everything. Trees turned into dust while the ground was split open, but surprisingly when the lightning struck monsters they did not explode into blood mist, and just dropped to the ground as their life aura disappeared slowly. Amid the lightning storm, Evan stood at Albelu's back and looked at the golden platform that was some distance away from him. This is the end of this video. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed and wish you wonderful rest of the day. The silent Ruptors out.